No, I'm not normally this late. Welcome, Normal America Show with host Rob Noor. Come on up, Dorothy. Come on. Uh, my dog was chasing a bunny when I left her out right before I came up, so I got to take a little trip through the woods behind my house. But we got her, and it's actually a good sign because she just had emergency surgery a couple weeks ago, and she is doing much, much better. So I can't be mad. I should have had her on a leash, but I was running a little late anyways, and I was finishing some prep for something behind the scenes. So I got to leave her out and come here. Tell them what you did. Come here. Come on. Come on, Dorothy. Tell them what you did. Come on. Come on. Say, I was chasing the bunny rabbit. You weren't going to take him out, though. You were just going to be friends, huh? She's a very good girl. Oh, my. Look at you. You're so pretty. You're so pretty. Yes, you are. Oh, what a pretty girl. Hey, can I do my job? I'll come play with you later. Is that fair? Okay. Good. You can lay down here if you like. Here, I got your blanket. All right. Where's my shot collar button? Ah, man. Dort, you want to come in here? My wife's not here, so normally she takes care of letting the dog out and all that good stuff before I come up and stream. But unfortunately, she's out running some errands today, so it is what it is. Also, it's funny. I was rushing to get some stuff done behind the scenes for the Crucible, and then it turns out it's not an issue because some things got canceled in one half. So, it's what it is. But man, it's great to be here. I'm glad you're all here with me today. We're gonna have a great show. We're going to do a call-in show, so I'll talk less at the beginning here. One topic that I could bring up, well, two, I guess, that would be potential to talk about. But I hope you all had a fantastic evening. I slept pretty good, to be honest. My son came in the room at 6:30 today, and he jumped in bed beside me and my wife, and it was the happiest I've ever seen him in the morning. You could tell he's still like half asleep, but it was so cool because he's 4, and he was like, "Dad, what did you do when you were a kid when you woke up?" And I was like, oh, I would, like, before I got ready for school, I would watch cartoons. And I watched this. I remember there used to be this show on at 6:30 in the morning when I would get up called Samurai Pizza Cats. So I was telling him about that. And he's like, what kind of clothes did they wear? Did they wear ninja clothes? I was like, yeah, pretty much. They pretty much wore ninja clothes. So it was pretty cool. I had a very, very, very good morning. Then I went back to sleep for an hour or so. But, so a little tired, but totally worth it. And man, what a great day. Uh, just happy to be here, man. So lucky, so blessed. I got a good dog. I got a good wife. I got a good son. Are you good? Lay down. You got your blanket here. There you go. Good girl. Um. So things going good. I can't complain. So I'm happy to spend some time here with you. Of course, I'll be happier if we reach that dono goal of $357. Just saying, day shift. Just saying. Now, in part because night shift Rob has outperformed me, day shift Rob. I don't know what it is. I'm just too nice here in the day. I guess that's the problem. In part because of that, night shift's crushing it. They're crushing the dono goal. Day shift, not so much. Sleeping well is violence. You're absolutely right. So, what an absolute shit show last night's debate was for two reasons. One, and the more important reason was, I the left is not sending their best, or maybe they are. That's even worse. The topic, it was a modern day debate. The topic was who's more violent, the left or the right. The two people I debated, the one guy was talking about how gerrymandering's violence, nepotism is violence, saying someone is far left is violence. Pretty much everything's violence, except abortion. Abortion's not violence. Abortion's a human life, and you could exterminate it at will, and that's not violence. But gerrymandering's violence, which led to me saying, well, let's just not call it abortion. Let's call it gerrymandering a family. Now, will you call it violence? Oh, what an absolute nightmare. That affirmative action's violence. What an absolute nightmare that guy was. The other guy, at least, was in the realm of, the topic of the debate. And he I don't know what to say. It was not the best showing. He did exactly what they always do. He relied on one of the two studies, the Persecution Project or CISIS. He relied on CISIS and was just like, everybody says it. All the studies say the right's worse. And the very first question I asked him, as I always recommend, is find examples of violence that you know and then see how these studies reported them. Okay, how much violence did they report in 2020? Because we've seen hundreds of examples of left-wing riots for Black Lives Matter. How many were reported? And would it shock you to know that by the time I left, which was some 3 hours, he had still not answered that question? We had greatest hits such as forcing him to admit that his own data included Kenosha as right-wing violence because Rittenhouse, a man who lawfully defended himself, was attacked by left-wingers that was rioting. Didn't count it as left-wing violence, you know, the left-wing riot. They did count it as right-wing violence. He talked about ICE and how bad ICE was an example of right-wing violence. The example he provided was from 2024 when Joe Biden and his administration was in charge of ICE. Every single specific case that they brought up, we were able to look. For example, his partner brought up an example of a 71-year-old woman who was an American citizen that was detained by ICE. Her name was something Stone was her last name, right? I remember seeing the video. She shoved a law enforcement officer and was detained for assaulting a law enforcement officer. Yes, that happened. That is not an example of, quote, black bagging American citizens. They said that the assassination attempt of Trump was fake, that his ear was never hit, which meant that no one was attempting to shoot at Trump. They said that the Charlie Kirk assassin, there's no evidence whatsoever that it was a left-winger, and the idea that he was dating a transgender lover that was his roommate was rolled back by the media, was incapable of providing any evidence of that. Said that the May 30th attacks on the White House in 2020, that the Secret Service said affirmatively that there was not an attempt to get into the White House, even though we could all see with our own eyes that's what they were doing. They were shouting about Trump marching towards the White House, using lethal weapons, injuring 60 law enforcement officers. Of course, then, as I correctly pointed out, the actual article he was reading made no such claim. It just didn't say that they were trying to get into the White House. He claimed that because of that, the Secret Service did say they weren't trying to get into the White House. Every single example that they brought up, just total ignoring. Even the own data set that he used, I forget what it's called, ADECL or something like that, that was cited by Stanford that showed that there were roughly 212 instances of violence during Black Lives Matter. That actually outnumbered the study he was using of how many left-wing violent acts there were in 2010. The best I could come up with, CISIS, was 10 left-wing acts of violence in 2010. That was up until August of 2010, which was well past the start of the George Floyd riots. My opponent was unable, using that data set, to show how many examples CISIS was. And, of course, I went through some of these studies and gave the examples of right-wing violence they had, such as right-wing violence when someone defaced a Catholic church and wrote Satan lives here, and a bunch of messages implying that they were far right-wingers. That was included as an example of right-wing violence. None of this was addressed. Instead, we had one argument from our opponent, which was, the data all suggest right commits violence more. That's it. When I'm impugning the methodology of the data. Of course, it was hard to get a word in edgewise, which leads us to point number 2 of why the debate was a shit show. The one guy, Craig, he was the one that didn't say gerrymandering was violence, could not control himself and acted absurd the entire way through the debate, continuing to interrupt me pretty much every time that I opened my mouth. Now, I did almost no interruption. In fact, I made it a point in my head to be like, don't interrupt this guy. I'm not going to say there wasn't the occasional time I was like, oh, well, what? But most of the time I sit there quietly as he talked. And then inevitably, as he flipped out that he didn't want interrupted and screamed early when my partner Grid interrupted him and said he would leave if he was interrupted, etc., etc. Finally came to a head after there were some tech issues and we came back, where he kept spurging out over me, and I just Moderator was refusing to act, so I decided to just talk like he was over him, like he was me, saying, "What the fuck's the moderator doing here?" Blah, blah, blah. That went on for a solid minute to make us all look like a bunch of buffoons. Right? And we then proceeded from there. And, all right, I backed off and let my opponent that was interrupting have his say, and then we shifted on. Finally, as we get to the end of the debate, a debate that, by the way, in totality was supposed to be 2 hours. So it was supposed to be 9 to 11. This point, it's like 12:30. So we're like, or 12:20. We're already an hour past where we're supposed to be. And look, baby, I want to come over here and talk to my audience and read super chats because they've been generous enough to give me money. So yes, I did say, hey, I have no time limit. But when the debate gets to the point where we're now looking at pictures of Donald Trump's ear versus Evander Holyfield's, we've lost the fucking plot. And we've basically came to the point where there's no further progression of the argument because their argument is just, but we trust the data. We don't know the methodology. We didn't look at the specific cases, but the data tells us the right source. And so that's what we believe. And we're not going to listen to you interrogate specific problems with our data set. Where do we go further from there after I show in a litany of ways how they're wrong? And so as we get to the Donald Trump's ear versus Evander Holyfield's, I'm like, can we just get to audience questions? We're already running an hour late. Of course, then as soon as I attempt to answer an audience question, this Craig guy spurgs out again over me. The moderator just lets it go. So I'm like, fine, I'm done. We're already here. So I ended up staying around an hour and 20 minutes past when the supposed time limit was supposed to be. And at that point, I was like, look, if audience questions, they're usually just voluntary anyways. I'm just going to head out since I'm not talking anymore because the moderator's just going to allow the guy to talk over me like an asshole. So I leave and my goodness, turns out that James, who runs Modern Day Debate, put a notice up on the debate that he would be relieving the moderator of duties. This is in no shape or form what I intended to occur, and ironic given the recent drama that I was involved with. So here we are once more, where poor moderation leads to me being at the center of some drama piece, where someone's channel, or in this case, their position in the channel, is being negatively affected. I don't know, it fucking sucks, and I'm tired of it. It's like, it was total amateur hour. I cross it off as, the moderator, I feel like, was having tech issues, was probably communicating with people behind the scenes about what to do with the debate, et cetera, and wasn't paying attention. So I feel I'm lenient on it. I was tired of it that night, but I'm not suggesting the guy's incapable of moderating. I don't know. I don't know that gentleman very well, but I don't know. So that's it. That's the debate. If you want to talk about the debate, it's still up on my channel, so you could go watch it over there. Yeah, I know. I'm not going to lose too much sleep over it, but I generally feel bad. I'm not trying to fucking, because now I already saw the post on X, right? So one of my haters on X is like, oh, that's 2 channels now. So don't you think now at this point Rob's the problem? So, anyways, that's that. Of course, the other topic's far more serious. I can't show this on stream, but there was a horrific attack in the UK that led to the murder of an innocent man who was walking a dog by a 22-year-old Afghan refugee. It's as heart-wrenching as the attack on Irina. One of the most absolute brutal, disgusting acts of violence I've ever seen on camera. The Charlie Kirk murder, the Irina murder, it's truly, it's graphic and truly disturbing. To describe a little what happened, he has a large butcher knife. This dog walker just happens to be walking by and gets blindsided. And I feel like the first stab probably really impaired him. So then he's laying on the ground trying to fight back and begging as the guy's just over top of him, stabbing over and over and over again. He then would attack two other people who I don't believe have passed away, but were hospitalized. It's truly revolting. The videos are available online. I'm not going to show it, obvious for TOS reasons. Plus, it's not something that I'm trying to show my audience. I don't know when people are going to say enough is enough. I found this video that's just basically sums up my feelings on this. This was a British woman that called into a talk show. She's from London. And I think eventually shit's going to pop off in London. I think it's too late. I really do. I think London's lost. But shit's going to pop off. And when it does, they're going to crack down on the people that have a problem with the mass migration. They're going to crack down hard on them. They already are. But it's too late. It's going to get worse. So here's the call. And we're going to play it in its entirety, and then we'll get to our calls.
I live in the borough right next to Hillingdon.
Yep.
And so I moved into my house in 2019. My local shop, there's been 3 stabbings, 1 murder since then.
Wow.
My friend was murdered last year up on the high street. Girl I know was murdered in Southall Park. The government are failing us. I'm so scared for my children. I have a 22-year-old son, and I'm begging him to move out of the country.
Oh my goodness, I feel for you.
What are these politicians doing to us? They're putting our children in so much danger. They're putting everyone in danger, and they're not doing nothing to help us.
And that's the thing. A lot of us feel. How many is too many?
They're pushing us to do something that we don't want to do. We are peaceful people. British people never revolt against their government.
Yeah.
They're going to push us to it because they're not listening to us. Our friends, our family are dying. I had a cousin murdered 20 years ago who was stabbed to death, and nothing has changed, Julia.
I'm so sorry, Sarah. I'm sure I speak for everyone listening and watching right now. My heart goes out to you, and that's the reality.
I don't leave the house without a man.
You're that worried.
Well, everyone I know is getting stabbed. They're getting raped in parks. This is where I live, not where the politicians live.
Do you think that's part of the issue, that they don't live in the real world?
Keir Starmer, if you're listening to this, please do something. I'm petrified. I've never broken the law in my life. I've been a law-abiding citizen. I've been a civil servant. Please do something. It's us that are dying on the streets. You talk about being racist. We're not racist. My sister's mixed race. I was a white child brought up in a mixed race family. Nothing to do with race.
Exactly.
To do with our safety.
Sarah, I mean, 100%. We agree with you every single word, and I'm so sorry. I'm sending you a big hug over the ether, and I'm sure everyone else is.
It's cooked. It's to the point where I think she's absolutely right. They're pushing. The politicians are pushing the British people to react so that they could implement the final plan, which is to crack down, to say, see, they're the violent, virulent, racist. No more free speech. Anybody speaking up against the government is corrupt. You're racist. You're a bigot. Martial law. I don't know what to say. My heart goes out to the native British people. I've been saying it for a while. I feel like it's already too late. I really do. I don't know. I don't know. If you're a man and you're in Britain and you hear that and that's how women are talking, what do you do? Who's they? Your heart doesn't go out to them because they keep voting for it. Where do you live? Just curious. I'm just curious. Where do you live? Tell us, Beatrix. Let's hear where you live. United States. So you voted for Joe Biden. You voted for open borders, right? And so if a illegal kills you and your family, you'd say, man, you voted for it. That's what we'd say. Heart doesn't go out. You voted for it, correct? Where do you live that is voted so that these awful occurrences aren't occurring? I would love to hear it. I would love to hear the location you're at where people didn't vote like this. Love to hear it. You don't vote for this, but you know that woman does. Please tell me that woman's name. You know how she voted. Please. I'm just curious. Tell me. In fact, Beatrix, it sounds like you're a woman. So if we go with this, statistically, most women vote for this, then I can imply that you vote for these sorts of open border policies, correct? Yes, you're less sympathetic to the people that are actively out there protesting. We want open borders, racism, blah, blah, blah. We have no evidence that this woman is one of those people, even if statistically women are more likely. And certainly there are a lot of men that vote for this shit as well. But the idea that I hear some woman in pain talking about how her entire livelihood's being upturned, her country's been stolen out from her, and we say, we have no sympathy for her because obviously as a woman, she voted for this. Whereas when I turn the same thing to you, 40 years from now when America's in the exact same position, and someone says, who gives a fuck that this Beatrix person's sad that her friend got stabbed? She voted for it, and you'll say, no, I didn't. Fuck you, you're a woman. Of course you did. So what? She mentioned she wasn't racist, and? I could say, I'm not racist, and I'm against open borders. It's not mutually exclusive. Right. She mentioned race because her own government calls her complaints racism. Correct. And also, it's not exclusively about race. For example, there could be a person of color who's not an Islamic refugee, who's not engaged in this behavior. The problem is the mass migration of these refugees. That's the problem. Of course, she's concerned about being called racist. Many people are. It doesn't mean that they voted for this. Millions upon millions of people in the United States voted for Trump. A solid portion of them would want to not be called racist. And You want to know that she stood with Carl Benjamin or Tommy Robinson. And yet you judge before you know. Yes, that's right. They've weaponized. Literally, last year in the United Kingdom, they jailed some like 12,900 something people for speech. But when this woman calls into a call-in show with her actual phone number, you want her to say something that blatantly could get her arrested. I stand with Tommy Robinson. To get on what? Some government watch list? It's very similar to when people ask me, what kind of guns do you own? Why would I say that online? So that in the future, some government database could say, there we go. We know what he said he had of this in the house. If you call in, we could talk about the shutdown. We talked about it a lot yesterday, though. Anyways, Beatrix, not to shit on you. I'm just saying, and it's an argument that, like, I think me and Andrew will have a debate on this at some point. Because I'm not as hard line as Andrew on the, well, you're a woman and you're in that country, and so you voted for this. There's a conversation to be had that the people that openly voted for this and they need to change their voting preferences, absolutely. But to the point where I look at one individual who's crying because she's talking about living in the neighborhood where this occurs and having friends that have been sexually assaulted in public and having friends that have been murdered in knife crime and being like, I have no sympathy. My heart doesn't go out to her. Fuck her. She probably voted. I don't know, but she probably voted for the wrong party. I'm not willing to go that far. Right. An unapologetic preacher nails it. Because I know the same thing could be levied at me. No matter what you think, right? Well, Rob didn't vote for open borders, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but I failed. Did I do everything I could within a legal framework to stop the politicians that ended up bringing open borders and all this crazy shit to the United States? No, I didn't. I did more than most people. But you think there weren't days that I was fucking around? Playing a video game, hanging out with friends, watching a football game? Of course there were. And even to the extent that I was working, I could have been more effective, but I wasn't. And so regardless of what I want to say, one day when I look my child in the eye, I will have to let him know that my generation failed. And saying, but I tried to be a voice against it, will be of small comfort. I collectively failed. That's the truth. As much as I want to bitch and moan about this politician or this cultural figure, this institution, the truth is my generation allowed it. And I was part of it. And in fact, maybe I'm more at fault because I saw it and was incapable of doing anything about it. That's the truth. And all of us are going to have to look at our children and explain that. And then the burden will be on them. And maybe they'll let things get worse. And then the burden will be on their children. Until some generation makes it right, where it's finally over. That's the truth. And yeah, given all of that, and I'll fully admit it, and I've done so here before, I could point the finger. I could say this person, I'm trying to do the right thing. This person's at fault. This group's at fault. This institution's at fault. I failed. I failed. But I don't want, if my loved one's stabbed to death by some illegal, the idea that there's someone out there that somehow isn't part of this failure, because we all are, particularly if you live in the United States, that'll say, I don't feel bad. He's part of that failure. That's what he gets. That's what his people voted for. It's grotesque. I'm not saying if there's someone out there campaigning on, protesting for open borders and, let's abolish prisons and blah, 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 and then they're the victim of some sort of heinous crime, that there's not part of you that says, well, what'd you expect? But, my goodness. I don't know anything about this woman. I hear a woman that's in pain. Yeah, these are Beatrix and the rest of you. These are serious conversations that need to happen. I saw someone else put this in chat. Sorry, I didn't highlight it, but where are the men? Where are they? Your wives feel this way? And what are you doing? Where were they when these grooming gangs were being announced? I've talked about this for years. I can't think of a more black-pilled thing than the country that arguably is most similar to ours, the United Kingdom. Watch generationally their children be molested in the most significant and horrific ways imaginable. And they got pissed at Tommy Robinson. Not one politician, not one police officer that knew this was going on for decades held accountable. No one. Maybe it'll be up to the women there, because the cowardly fucking men have stood down. But again, so am I. I'm a coward. Maybe coward's not the right word. Maybe even worse insult. I'm lazy. Deep down, despite what I might say, I'm indifferent. That's the truth, if I really want to be honest with myself. Because at the end of the day, you know what I'm going to say? I'm enjoying my wife and my son. Fuck it. What am I supposed to do? Quit my job? You know? So I don't know. It's a serious question, and I don't know what will wake people up finally. But for now, I think that you could see just how volatile the situation is becoming over there in the UK. And like I said, I think that it's heartbreaking listening to that woman talk like that. So, anyways, depressing. Maybe I should have led with that and then did the debate shit last night. So, you want to talk about the debate last night? You can call in. Want to talk about this topic in the UK or other similar topics involving that? Fine. Someone mentioned wanting to talk about the government shutdown. That's fine too. We can get into that. Whatever you want to talk about within terms of service. Now, here's the deal. Particularly this topic, it's easy to get angry. It's easy to say shit that would violate terms of service. We're not going to do that, whether it be in the chat or with the call-ins. No calls to violence. No racial slurs. No homophobic slurs. Whether it be talking about this issue or about the debate last night or any other issue that be on your mind. So your job as the audience is to send me good callers. I see we already have 3 on the line. They're going to be fantastic. And to send in super chats, which I will read all of them. So right before we get to the calls, Naughty Germ, thank you as always for the $5. Really, really appreciate it as always, man. Thank you so much. Buddha, thanks so much. $10 says, I wanted Max to say, curse you, Perry the Platypus. I've never watched that show, but I'm aware of it. So it's pretty funny. Landed Manwaring, $2 says, trust the data, but Trump's ear wasn't shot. Yeah, another great line I forgot was, there's no such thing as a black supremacist. My goodness. Badger Snake, $2 says, how do you manage resentment towards people of bad faith? It's tough. I mean, mostly I just, in my head, I'm like, I just basically choose to, if it no longer becomes beneficial to me in some way to interact with them, I'm just like, whatever. I don't care. Go do your own thing. I don't want to be part of it. Gavin Freenan, $5 says, only good thing I got to say about the mod is at least he shut down Craig's BS more than once, which not a lot of mods do whenever he's on a panel. Yeah, I've never interacted with Craig. That was my first time seeing him. But if that's how he approaches the other debates he does, then I don't know how productive they would be. He says he normally debates flat Earth people, and then he goes into wild conspiracies about Trump's ear, and I mean, you'd think that he would be a little more rational. Imperious aspect of valor. Thanks so much. $2 says U.S. men won't even beat women, let alone fight Islam. Yeah, okay. So keep getting those super chats in. Mike Ball, what's up, man? Thanks for the raids that you always give me. Really appreciate it. Says, good morning, Robin, everyone. I hope everyone has a blessed day. Me too. And Blasterbot for $5 says, imagine thinking day shift could hit a goal. They don't even know Dino facts. Day shift equals poor shift. Oh, snap. All right. Now, today I'm going to try to be reasonable. I'm going to try to not spend 30 minutes with the first caller, and then be screwed coming up. So we're going to go to 2:30 and then I go pick up my son. You going to leave that day shift shit talking go? We're not going to get to our goal. Just saying, the shit talking is becoming immense. Oh, one last thing. I did show you on day shift yesterday. You want to know how good night shift did last night? They were able to hit the goal to bring back Chair. Chair's back. So we set a goal. They were able to hit it. So we brought Chair back from the depths. And I'm very glad. The other chair was far less comfortable. So, Bail Factor, thanks so much. $5 says, hey, Rob, can't call in today, but in light of the snap and the government shutdown, I do take a bit of solace knowing we aren't being blamed for it. Also, F the UK. Snap, they're trying. But yeah, I mean, the people are seeing through it that it's the Democrats that are doing the shutdown largely, yeah. All right, we'll start here. Imperious Act of Valor says, let me up and I'll recalibrate you. What's up, sir? You're going to tell us about why we need, real quick, you're going to tell us why we need to beat women.
Yeah, sure, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're not willing to do what must be done to solve the problem, shut up.
Okay, so you beat your woman?
Yeah, sure, yeah. I beat women if they talk back to me.
Okay, so
I've never had to.
So not if they lay hands on you.
Tell me why morally beating a woman is wrong.
Well,
why is it wrong?
So
why is it wrong? Shut up! No, fat boy, shut up! Why is it wrong?
So I can tell that you act like a woman right now with your no,
sir.
You're incapable. Shut up! You'll listen to me. You're acting like a woman right now. So I imagine you get beat quite often in life. I imagine you get beat quite often in life, right? Someone as feminine as you that can't even handle a civil dialogue. I'm assuming that men that are more masculine than you put you in your place quite frequently. Now, I know you probably like that. Because oftentimes the people that talk the biggest like this, particularly with anonymous names online, and talk about how they're tough guys that beat women, when they run into a man, they're incapable of doing anything. Because as you're exhibiting, you show the emotional irrationality of the very women that you would complain about. Now, if your argument is that a woman uses physical violence against you, you should be allowed to defend yourself as you would a man, then I think you're onto a solid argument. Your argument that you beat women if they say things that you don't like, though, belies the fact that you're trying to be an impressive man. In fact, I wouldn't do that to a man who says things that I don't like. However, we see that you're an internet tough guy with your anonymous name, so please go on now that we've given you a chance and go on to your homophobic references that you're going to be able to say that, oh, you work for Andrew Wilson, so you guys must be gay. Go ahead, let's hear it.
No, Andrew Wilson was dating a black woman and knocked his now wife up while dating her.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
Hey, thanks so much. All right. Hey, we're getting through the calls fast today. All right. Next call. Or I'm sorry, let's read some super chats. Post abandoned, $10 says tolerance is the true problem. We've been indoctrinated to treat it as a virtue and a badge of moral progress. Tolerance asks nothing of us but passive acceptance. We tolerate that we refuse to confront. I totally agree that there's far too much tolerance of these civilizations and cultures and political positions, and that our empathy is weaponized, which allowed to sort of this sort of stuff to occur and exacerbate into the problems that we see. All right. Next caller, Black Jaden. What's happening today?
Good morning. How are you?
Pretty good. Can't complain. My
I don't
dog's
know.
doing well, chasing rabbits through the woods. So
That's good. Your boy doing okay?
he's very good. He had a very good morning this morning. So
Good deal. Good deal. Well, I don't know what that last guy's problem was, but I'll just say that one quick thing on that is any man who has to put his hands on a woman to get her to follow any type of order or request or something, it just means you have no commanding presence. It means you have no respect garnered from that woman in general. That's all I guess I'll have to say about that. That guy's so effeminate that he thinks he has to beat women to get them to do what he wants, but whatever.
yeah, I there's a serious conversation to be had for the idea of if women want to be treated like men and want to use physical violence. For example, if you're at a bar and there's a fight and a woman starts punching a guy in the face, then yeah, I think that in that point, in the moment when you're being physically attacked, you defend yourself, right? And then there
To a
should be,
reasonable degree.
but that's different than like a woman says things I don't like, so I'll beat them. And Andrew dated a black woman, so
Yeah, that guy
little
is
man,
different.
little man energy from anonymous little men online trolls. That's it. So not even worth really discussing about.
So I guess before I ask my main question, do you know all 5 elements of the First Amendment?
I don't know that I've broken it down as 5 elements. I know the First Amendment.
There's 5 elements to the First Amendment. It's religion, speech, press, assembly, and petition. All
Oh,
those,
so you just
all those,
okay? You mean the thing? I got you. Yeah,
yeah, those
sure,
are just all the things that are covered under the First Amendment.
sure.
I guess my real question is, how do you balance ideology versus reality when you go through the thought process of, like, for example, this Mamdani guy becoming the mayor of New York, like the things that he's promising, if just take him at face value, take that he's going to do everything that he says to do at face value, which is what you do when you support a politician. You're supporting everything that they're saying
Mhm.
for the most part. You might not agree with everything they're saying, but if you choose to vote for them, you're supporting it.
Okay.
Mamdani promises things like rent control, which under reasonably, if done the correct way, would be good things for poor Americans. He wants to do things like offer free social services, as far as like transportation, other things. He wants to help out, like making childcare more affordable. Obviously, some of these things are unreasonable because how do you pay for it? Obviously, I mean, we don't have to go through all the retarded specifics about some of the things that he wants to do, but how do you balance what he says versus the actual outcomes of what will happen to voters who are very
I don't know.
interested in
I guess
politics?
I don't see the connection to the First Amendment for Mamdani says rent control. Is the implication because we know when people like him get into power, they'll subvert the First Amendment?
Well, it's more or less that he is a practicing Muslim. He pushes a lot of Muslim talking points, and a lot of people are scared of that in New York specifically because of what happened with 9/11 and amongst
But
other
I don't
things
get
like that.
what
So
I'm saying is that I don't get the connection to the First Amendment. I get your question outside the scope of what you talked about the First Amendment.
I guess
Outside the scope of that, I get
I
it,
guess
but I don't understand.
principally, I believe in the First Amendment heavily. People have the freedom to practice whatever religion that they want in this
Okay.
country, but I don't think that it's a good thing that he is
So the
a
point is,
practicing Muslim who's going to be
gotcha.
controlling power
Okay.
in New York.
Now I understand. You have the right to practice whatever religion you want, but that doesn't mean as a society or that the founding fathers wanted people that practice religions that are antithetical to the values that we set forth, that we think would be best to be in positions of leadership. That's certainly true. So those two things could be, yes, no one's suggesting it should be illegal to be a Muslim, right? The problem is that as a Muslim who believes in sort of a bunch of radical things and would subvert the country and subvert the city, absolutely we should reject this. And absolutely we have the right to reject allowing people into this country that come from these religions or cultures that are antithetical to the things that we believe that make our society good. It's a different question than if some person here picks up a Quran sometime and says, you know what, I want to be Muslim. No, I don't think that we should be allowed to make that illegal. And I think that's against the spirit of what the First Amendment entails. So, yes, the First Amendment does mean that Mom Donnie has the right to be a practicing Muslim. However, as a society, we have the right to say we don't want those values being values that are put in positions of our legal system, of our political system. And we also have the right to say we don't want to import people that aren't citizens that share those values that we think don't align with ours.
Do you think it's a bad thing for people to want this country to be predominantly white and for people to be pro-American, be in power? Do you think
No, I think that's a good thing.
Even though we have the right to, practice whatever religion and believe what we want in this
Yes,
country, you think
I don't see that
certain people should be in power?
I don't see the two as mutually exclusive. I don't see saying that we have the right to be whatever religion we want, but I want Christians to be in power to be mutually exclusive.
I got you. Okay.
You know what I mean? I think that's now I can't do anything except push my cultural value. I'm not suggesting that we make it illegal for someone who's not a Christian to be in positions of power. That I'm not suggesting. I'm saying as a society or as an individual, I'm allowed to say who I want to be in power. And as a society, we should push for people that would have the better outcomes for sort of our country as a whole and social cohesion. And the founding fathers would have thought that that was largely either deist or Christians, and the deists that believed in sort of moral values that aligned almost in totality with Christianity. And I think that that is the way that we should go about things. That leads to the best outcomes, and it leads to the West being as and particularly the United States being as successful as it is. So I don't see a mutual exclusivity there.
Just to be clear, I'm a nationalist, probably even a borderline white nationalist. So I just I like to play around with the logic of things like that, though, because
no, that's it's fine. Yeah.
I don't see an issue with people who have different religions, and maybe one thing I don't agree with is that a person from a foreign country should never be able to hold any type of political power.
I agree with that. I agree. As far as I'll just real quick say on white nationalism, there's no problem with people like collectivizing and focusing on issues based on their race. I don't think that white nationalism is good in that I don't understand how at this point we would make this country a white nation. I've heard people talk about this. You would have to fracture up the country. The country would basically have to cease to exist. And then you would balkanize in certain community. But like as a white nationalist, meaning a nation state only for white people, how would you determine who meets the threshold of white? How would you kick out all of the people that aren't white?
I don't think necessarily you'd have to kick out all the people who aren't white. I just think that white people should be the majority people in power and control.
But would you enforce it by law?
I think it could be enforced by law, yes.
I mean, I don't think it's possible, and I don't think it should be the case. Even if it should be the case, I don't think it's
at this point. But
I mean, fucking 48% of white people would vote to fucking eliminate themselves at this point. So I don't think you're going to get them to fucking vote that only white people should be able to have positions of power. So I just don't think it's practical. And as such, like I don't really understand the utility of embracing that mindset, because it's just like, well, it's never gonna. It'd be no different than saying like,
I think
that only Pittsburgh Steelers fans should be allowed to be in positions of power. Sure, dude.
I think the utility of it is to combat the multi-racial cultures that are encroaching on American culture, and just like the same thing that's going on in the UK. I think that's has a high potential of happening here with the way that our politics are moving on the left.
But embracing a mentality that will be rejected by the very people that you need in order to stop that sort of multinationalist project seems to be a bad idea. Right? Like, so instead of saying, well, I'm white nationalist, right now, what you've done is you've set yourself up to where even reasonable people that would agree with you are like, well, that's cringe. No, No, thank you. A nation just for white people? No. But we'll legalize that only white people could be in positions of power. And then you're going to lose. And then what will happen will be the side that wants to import a bunch of cultures that are different is going to have tremendous success. You've basically taken yourself out of the cultural and political conversation. So I just think it's a bad move, particularly if you're not suggesting that it's a country only for white people, just saying that you would prefer white people to be in positions of power. That's perfectly fine. And for the people out there that want to say that this is grotesquely racist or whatever, I mean, what do you say to someone that's like in inner city Chicago or a district that's 80% black that says, we'd like a black person representing us? I think that's perfectly reasonable. I think you're making a mistake if you choose someone just based on skin color. But look, I also understand we're all tribal. And the idea of wanting someone that shares your culture and your background to be the person that's representing you in positions of power, there's nothing wrong with that at all. So I'm not denigrating like the sort of idea behind that. As a white person, you're like, I want the country to stay majoritarily white. I want people in positions of leadership to look and think like me. Perfectly fine. I just don't think we could do it through force. And I think the idea of identifying it as white nationalists is a big mistake. But I'll give you the last word, and I have so many callers, so I got to move along here. So,
I guess my final thought on the matter would be is really when you get down to it, the white race has been under attack for the past decade from the left and from the establishment and from institutions, and I think the only way to combat that force is to have people who are radicalized to kind of the race politics that the left wants to play. It might not be the best thing for people, but that's the game that the left wants to play. And I guess that's pretty much all I have to say on it.
All right,
thanks for having me on today.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much, man. Always a pleasure.
You have a good.
Yep. All right, I gotta be quick. We have like 12 people on the line. First, I don't know if it's the electricity comes through this wire, but it constantly tangles it up. So I'm constantly have to unplug it and straighten it out. Boomer doesn't know what's going on. Please get those super chats in. Beatrix, $5 says, I understand I was wrong and I should sympathize with her. Just a little too black, but please don't apologize. We're all big people here. And I think you bring up a point that's worth addressing. So, all right. Apologies to the callers. We got to be fast today because there's an awful lot of people that are trying to get in. Cody Samurai, until you set up a microphone /cam, you're not going to be able to join this. Okay, you got it. No problem. Okie dokie. Let's bring up our next caller. Fallen Ethan, what's up, man?
What's up, dude?
Not much at all.
I promise I'll stop calling in so often. I know you have a lot of people calling in.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. No, I wanted to talk about the debate last night, but then you brought up that horrific story from that lady.
I know I screwed everyone that wanted to talk to the debate, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
It seems like every time I call in, I got a game plan, and then you start talking about something, and we get off course. Just the responsibility of people in the United States. We're allowed to own firearms. You should arm up. But far as the debate goes last night, that Craig guy, for one, is super annoying, and he's really changed his strategy from the very first time I saw him. He was pretty timid. And last night, he tried coming in hot, very much like how Andrew Wilson does in the beginning of the debate. It seems like he was trying to get you guys on the back foot right off the bat. But, as the debate, went on, his whole argument started falling apart. And he really lost the plot and wasn't really up and up on what he thought was his data and his talking points.
Well, so let me try to put him in the most favorable light possible, at least to me. Maybe he's used to debating people that are going to be more hysterical. And so he's matching that energy even before it happens. But I was specifically approaching that debate trying to be calm and level-headed. And from the get-go, it was you could tell he was just super aggro, and it was not working for him. I mean, right out of the gate, I asked a simple question. It's the same question that I asked the entirety of the 3 hours, which was, what does your data say about 2020? That's it, right? Yep. Because your entire point hinges on but the data. It's a difficult position. So the problem is, let's say hypothetically that his side's right? And that the right wing commits far more violence. Hypothetically, that's true. The problem you're going to have is, even if that's true, if we assume that that's true, everybody sees the violent actions of the left. We all see it all the time. right? We see it. So if you're compiling this data, right, you have to know that's what people are thinking. If you're CISIS, if you're the ADL, if you're the Persecution Project, right? All of these, or maybe it's Prosecution Project. Yeah, that's what it is. All of these groups have to understand. Everybody reading this sees Black Lives Matter. They see Antifa. They see the riots against ICE. They see things like the assassination attempts at Trump. They see Charlie Kirk. They see violent lefties on campus trying to prevent right-wing speakers. So you would think that they would be as careful as possible when compiling their data to sort of describe how that doesn't count, or how even despite that there's still more right-wing issues with violence, and you would expect the people using that data to be prepared for that argument. And instead it's the exact opposite. They don't even try. They don't try. And as soon as you start to interrogate it, like it only takes half a second. Just listen to him speak. Give me 5 examples of right-wing riots. He can't. He gives the only 2 they could give: Charlottesville and January 6th, right? That's the only 2 they could give. Then he starts talking about other things. Well, like synagogue shooting. Well, that's not a right-wing riot. Nonetheless, what's he do? He makes a mistake because he's just looking at the data. Kenosha. Now, 95% of people that are debating him aren't going to know what that's a reference to. Kenosha? You mean Kyle Rittenhouse? Oh, yeah. Okay. So then the argument is that a bunch of left-wingers that for days, based on a false story that the media and Democrats left-wingers put out, that law enforcement illegitimately killed this black man, when the reality of this story was this was a man who was basically trying to kidnap children and was running towards the children in the car with a knife after he had been tased by police officers. And so before they let this man with a knife, who was aggressive, get to the children, they took him out. That story was covered up and said, nope, innocent black man killed by police, which results in riot after riot after riot for 3 nights straight as police stood down and did nothing. And when people finally have enough and try to defend themselves and then they're attacked and they fight back, that's right-wing violence. That's it. And he didn't know the data. The problem is so many of these people, it is just a straight up appeal to authority. It's the same people that told you when you said, I think that this virus probably came from a lab in Wuhan, said, look at what the scientists say. See? Now, it doesn't matter that they're wrong now. All they had to do was say, this is what it says.
Now, all that CISA data, isn't that responsible for all of those other organizations' data? I'm pretty sure that one study is responsible for most of what those other organizations are pointing to. So it's
Yes.
like, it's one source, realistically, just 5 or 8 different people
It's
saying
2
things.
sources.
Yeah.
It's the prosecution project and it's CISIS. Yes.
Yeah.
So when you hear like, well, the Atlantic did a study. Well, this organization did a study. Well, the data they're using is this data that's been put forth by these 2 projects. Now, the prosecution project is actually ran by a guy that there's credible evidence is literally Antifa. He's a member of Antifa. So is it any surprise when you start to look in his data and what he qualifies is right-wing violence? It'll be things like a church was attacked by someone painting swastikas and saying Satan lives here. Yeah. That's right-wing violence. Wait, what? If anything, that looks completely opposite. You're attacking a church, smearing it. That sounds like something a left-winger would do. Nope, that's right-wing. You know, and that's not to mention the heirs of omission. Where's all the violence that we personally saw every night that's occurring in Portland from left-wingers? Every night we see in Seattle that's occurring from left-wingers. During Black Lives Matter, during the Chaz Zone, violence on college campuses. Where's all this? And none of it shows up in this data. And yet, I mean, it has to be the simplest thing in the world. If you're watching and you're a lefty, right, consider this, right? Consider that Trump decides, I'm going to remove everyone in every executive agency. And then his FBI is going to put out statistics that's like, you know, Biden voters are 80% more likely to use violence and they're this, that. Would you just trust it in blind faith? Especially if you saw like 7, 8 right-wing riots and Trump's FBI is like, no, there was only 2 violent right-wing episodes last year. And you'd be like, but I saw it. I saw the right-wing riots. You'd be like, no, the data doesn't say it. They would correctly be like, we don't trust that data. We don't. But when I could look and say, okay, anytime they couch it as if like there's this appeal to like science. It's not an appeal to science. The scientific method would mean that we could replicate, we can interrogate the methodology and whatever. So when you provide a study and I'm like, there are quite clearly significant problems with this study, and your only argument is, dude, you're a conspiracy theorist, I trust the data. then you don't have an
Yeah,
argument.
they're unable of critical thinking. They're taught how to think or told what to think. They are unable of critically looking through things. All right. Well, last thing, I got to get back inside, but last night was a perfect example why I personally think you're a better debater than Andrew is. Is you don't let like small ad hominem attacks and stuff get under your skin. Like you look right through them and stick to the point. Where it seems like Andrew gets his ego gets in the way a little more, and he gets a little more flustered, and he'll go back with that kind of childish stuff, and really exemplified it last night with how much Craig was interrupting you and like trying to attack you and stuff like that. And yeah, that's my personal
Well,
opinion.
thank you. I appreciate it. I'll address it. But Fallen Heathen is always a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Take it
I
easy.
mean, there's a complaint. I don't know how to handle it, right? Like, there's a complaint to be made, like, 2/3 of the way through the debate. That's exactly what I did. Once he starts talking over me egregiously and the moderator's doing nothing, I'm like, okay, then fuck it. I'm just going to talk over you. I don't know what the right answer is. A lot of people say the opposite. They say I should approach it more like Andrew. I should just be like, fuck you, you fucking loser. Try to talk over me. Shut the fuck up. Maybe that is the answer. I don't think it's a matter of better. It's just a matter of different styles. It would be nice if both, I think Andrew and me both do a good job of matching energy. I think the debates that are oftentimes not only the ones we find most enjoyable, but that the audience finds most enjoyable, and quite frankly, that are the most difficult are the ones where our opponents are actually trying to engage and not spurging out, not that shit. That's easy. They make themselves look bad. Right? Like yesterday, I barely have to say a word. Just sit there and listen to them talk. Gerrymandering's violence. Huh? Like, so, I mean, I don't know. You would hope that you have a better moderator. That's true. Keep getting the super chats in. Cool Vic, nice to hear from you, man. Says, I reviewed a few Craig debates, and he loves to interrupt, and he loves the sound of his own voice. Nothing he could have done was going to interrupt no matter what. Keep up the great work, not one step back. Thank you. And Ty, thanks for becoming a member. All right. Byron, what's happening today, man?
So sorry,
Muted.
I'll
There you
mute
go.
myself, sir.
Yeah.
Not much. How you doing, sir? I apologize. I have not done my part as a nerd. I have yet to go back and finish listening to your interview of Sandy Peterson.
Oh, yeah, you'll love it.
I will get around to that, I promise. In that vein, I am curious, and this is a nerd question. Have you ever considered or had anyone pose to you the question of getting involved in a dialogue or debate of rules light versus crunchy tabletop role-playing systems?
I've not had anyone approach me at that. Now, I would be poor for that debate as I'm very novice in both. In fact, I've never done the rules light.
Okay.
But it would be interesting. I don't know. I didn't know this until like the day before. I watch this guy. His name is, Seth Skorkowski, right?
Yeah.
And he reviewed, you know who I'm talking about? Yeah.
Yes,
So he does.
I've subscribed to the Dungeon Dudes. I love their stuff.
Very cool guy. And like he does a lot of like D&D and a lot of like tabletop role-playing content on YouTube.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is there's like sort of multiple styles of videos. He'll do where he's actually playing with like a group of guys. Then he'll do where he's giving advice on how to play a tabletop game or how to be a dungeon master or run a tabletop game. And then one thing he does is he covers a lot of scenarios. And so a lot of these games I'll never play, but it's interesting to me. It's almost like listening to someone tell a story, and he'll explain like, oh, here's this particular scenario in Dungeons and Dragons, and here's what it looks like, and here's some advice if you're running the game. But you're not supposed to listen to it.
Stuff like that versus how it would play in Pathfinder versus this West End Games systems. I love
Correct. So he'll cover all this. Now, his favorite system, I think, I've intuited this, is called Cthulhu. And those are the most interesting stories because if you're not playing the game, if you're just listening to the stories, I think Call of Cthulhu, and I mentioned this to Sandy Peterson, I said, to me, it's almost like your character sheet's less important than that game than like you as the role player. Like there's almost like, it's like there's some murder and you're trying to figure out what happened.
It's a collective, it's much more sort of a collective storytelling experience, like a radio drama from back in the day. I used to love listening to that kind of stuff. When SoundCloud was hosting a ton of that kind of content, before they yeeted a lot of it for violating their updated terms against violent material or anything even vaguely spicy, to use the safe term for it. That really killed it on SoundCloud. And we're all poorer for it.
So I knew that Sandy Peterson had worked on Age of Empires. I knew he'd worked on Doom. I knew he'd worked on Quake, and he'd worked on a lot of other video games.
Yeah.
But when I was like looking up his bio, because the information that was sent to me, it was actually from his son, who's a very cool guy too. He sent me like, hey, here's some of the stuff, that Sandy's done. And it didn't mention that the first job he had was in Chaosium. And he created Call of Cthulhu. Now, not only have I watched people cover Call of Cthulhu on YouTube for dozens upon dozens of hours and got entertainment from it, but I also happen to know that Call of Cthulhu is largely responsible for mainstreaming Lovecraft. Right. And so like movies I love, like Mouth of Madness and like all of these dark, even to some degree, like Hellraiser and movies like that. If you enjoy, we're talking about that, the babies, but you know what I'm saying? These sort of movies, like so I was sort of nerding out. I was like, that's so cool that he was
awesome
instrumental
stuff.
in creating this. Yeah.
As a side note, kind of parallel into that, the sanity system that was introduced in Call of Cthulhu found its way through Silicon Knights on the Nintendo GameCube to the game Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem.
Yes, I remember that game.
Oh,
that's great.
Sorry, amazing game. Sorry.
Well, hey, Byron, I got like 9 other callers, so I'll let you go. Yep. But yeah, check out the rest of the interview. I thought of you because now he does a lot of pen and paper and just straight up board games. And I know that that's something you would be interested in. So.
If you're not following him on X already, it is definitely worthwhile to follow him there. That's where I follow and keep up with a lot of his stuff. It's definitely great to talk to you again. Cheers out and take care.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, everyone, we have about an hour and 15 minutes left. Let's get those super chats in. Only an 18% would be mucho appreciated, but I'm not going to stay here and hector you. I know you'll do the right thing. Next up, great friend of the show, our good friend, Long Nate. Looks like he's driving now. How you doing, man? Up, you're muted. See, I'll bring you back. I'll bring you back in a minute. See if you can get your mic sorted out. I'll be right back. All right. Next up, we have Craig. Krog. I don't know. What's happening?
Robnoerr, destroyer of worlds.
What's happening today? How's it going?
Hey, this is pretty good. I feel like you should start letting everybody know that they don't know your power. You don't know the power of the power numbers. They don't know your power.
Listen, I appreciate it. I really do. I do not want to negatively affect anyone's channel, though. I will say that. So I know things have worked out in a weird way lately, but it is what it is. So, but I do appreciate all the support. I do.
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. But hey, so first thing I want to say real quick is, first off, obviously, Craig couldn't figure out any sources for his wild claims that the Charlie Kirk shooter was right wing. But just one thing is when he was citing a Utah State official saying that it was the bullets were wrong or whatever, the shooting wasn't done at Utah State. It was done at University of Utah. And so it's like it was probably using ChatGPT or some ill-cited article.
Yeah,
so it's just,
I think that's probably
so many people do that.
And like the idea that like it was debunked, I don't know. This was one little meta part of the argument, but even that, I think that he's probably wrong. The part of the on the bullet writing that was considered to be trans was UWU something about the bulge, right? And he then would put in his text message to his trans lover. In one of those text messages, he wrote something like, "Oh my gosh, I'll die of cringe if they read that on television." Now, what I was reading is that's probably a reference to like being attracted to a trans man, like bulge is in like, I don't know if that's true. It's sort of irrelevant to the greater context of the argument. For example, I was reading sources directly from his family saying, hey, he's becoming more radicalized by the left online. And this argument that people have made, I can't even believe that people make this as a serious argument. That's like, he was raised in a right-wing family. I mean, what does that mean? As if we don't know many people that were raised in a family that then end up with values different. I mean, Destiny was raised in a right-wing family. And So what? He's secretly a right winger? I mean, it's nonsensical. And when provided with overwhelming evidence, like at the very least, we could be like, this was an attack on a right winger. This was an attack on Charlie Kirk. It overwhelmingly looks like it was from a left winger, and it was overwhelmingly celebrated by the left. And yet we get hung up on that. I could have brought up, I had listed 40 examples of left wing violence since Trump came into office that I was able to provide, and we got through 3. You know, it's just like that's the nature of how that debate was going. So,
Yeah, no, I agree. And yeah, that's not ultimately how a lot of it is. But the other thing I want to say real quick before I hop off here is just like that guy, Craig. He is like a kind of a left-wing punching bag, I think, for a lot of debaters, right? He obviously wrecks the flat earthers because that's crazy. But his conspiracy theories about Trump is honestly on the same level as the flat earther theories, and I think you guys need to give him a lot of crap in person about that, because I think he's going to Modern Day Debate, right?
Yeah, he'll be there.
Yeah,
it's Craig, right? Which is what your name is. Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's very much. I mean, I didn't even have the energy to entertain it, right? Like, I basically said all I needed to say in like 30 seconds, which is like, yeah, Evander Holyfield got his ear bitten, which is going to leave a different mark than someone getting their ear grazed by a bullet that causes blood. So one, I mentioned, like, I mean, this dude is one of the wealthiest men in the world. He's running for president. He probably has access to the best medical care. I'm assuming that could mean that he has access to a plastic surgeon. He probably got there near immediately. I'm assuming they rushed him right to the hospital and were able to make repairs near immediately. Which would explain why his ear looks pretty good now. But let's assume the alternative would have to be true. There's literally images of that bullet. It's one of the most iconic. Like, there's so many images from that day that's iconic. There's obviously the one of Trump with the blood on his face saying fight. That one's iconic. But you remember there's an image where like the still frame shows the bullet?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
What I'm supposed to believe is, I assume this is his theory. We didn't get to it. Trump was involved in this. And since he believes that there were actually other people shot, including Corey Compatore, that died, I suppose the theory goes something like this. Either Trump being involved or just people operating at the behest of Trump decided that they would murder Trump supporters by shooting a bullet intentionally inches away from Trump. But they weren't shooting at Trump. They were just shooting inches away from him. That's theory 1. Or theory 2 is that they never intended to hit Trump whatsoever. They were aiming for the firefighter. It's so dumb. It's like, you're right. It's almost worse than flat earth. And so it's interesting because you would expect someone that argues against something like flat earth would be against that sort of level of like conspiracy. But I guess not. I guess,
Right.
So,
well, he didn't, not only that, but like flat earthers at least try to use these like kind of bogus experiments. They're like, look, you can shine a light at a piece of, that one weird experiment they do. At a piece of paper, they try to find evidence for it. He's just like, nope, I just don't think it was shooting at Trump, right? But he's not offering any actual other theory, right? He has to offer a theory of, oh, I think it was the FBI colluding with whatever, you know what I mean? But he's not even doing that. He's just literally just saying, I reject it. So, yeah, it's crazy, but I'll let you get on to other calls. So.
Thank you, Craig. I appreciate it, man. I really do. Thanks so much.
Yeah, have a good one.
You too. Oh, boy. We're stagnant in the super chats. Texas Bullymon, $5. Thanks. Says just stopping by to say hi and chip in. WChat, WRub. Thank you so much. Always appreciated. And I Stand America, $5 says the UWU bulge thing is from a furry community, which is intertwined with the trans community, as far as I know. Well, there you go. As I said, sort of irrelevant in the grander scheme of what we're talking about. Remember, trying to get to that goal of 357. Don't leave Night Shift Clown on you. Let's go back to our friend Nate. Nate, you there?
Yes, can you hear me this time?
Yes, we got you just fine now. How's it going, my
All
friend?
Right. Good. Hey, I'm going to get the dirty business out of the way. Everybody, Rob deserves 90% likes to viewers. Freaking hit the damn thumbs up on the video before you're in the chat. Second of all, if you've got $15 that you're holding on to, you're not going to need it. Put 2 of it into a super chat and freaking send it his way. The man worked his butt off last night for everybody, and we are letting him down. I will make it up once I get my good check next Friday.
Thank you so much, Nate. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Anyway, yeah, I was trying to get on, but I was in such bad connection areas yesterday. To let you know that Craig is a lolcow. He is 100% disingenuous. He has never followed through on any argument that he's ever had on any of the modern day debates. I started looking into him because I could not believe anyone was seriously that bad faith after Andrew debated him on there, and found that, man, the guy is just, they must only keep him around because he's like the poor man's Stefan Molyneux. Like, seriously. He's ridiculous.
Thank you so much, by the way, for the $5. The person who sent on Cash App says, doing my part, Nate. Thank you so much. I
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Now,
I'd known that Andrew had debated him at DebateCon last year, but I didn't see the debate, and that was it. I knew next to nothing about the guy. I just knew that they said he debated Flat Earth, so I approached it. Yeah, it was Bruce. Thanks so much. I approached it, attempted to be serious, and it was evident by about a third of the way through the debate, like, oh, this is a joke. This guy's a joke, you know?
Oh yeah. Well, the other part is what I don't think people really realize about Max, for two reasons. First, he's so annoying to listen to. I had to pull my earplugs every time he talked and waited for somebody else's mouth to be moving. But secondly, he's like hardcore communist. So he does not even acknowledge that the United States has a left wing in government at all. As far as he is concerned, it is two right wing factions going after each other. So it's all right wing for him.
It's funny because if we talked about the positives, right, and said, well, this is positive from the United States, this is positive, he wouldn't be like, oh, that's right-wing positivity. He wouldn't say that, right? But these lolcows that are like, there is no left in the United States, I mean, what can you say? It's just a joke. Okay, then we'll just take Mao's China and the Bolsheviks. Cool. You guys have stacked up over 150 million bodies. And
right. Well, but his personal beliefs are neither one of those went far enough left to make it happen.
Right. Yes, that's right. It's just, they call it no true Scotsman fallacy. It's just another way of saying, like, they control the definition of obvious terms, and so that they could then imply that no criticism is relevant to them. And in debate,
he's a 100% theorist. Yeah, 100% theorist.
So like in debate, it's slightly different, but in debate, there was a type of argument called a critique. It was a philosophical critique of your plan. And the critiques would be something like a critique of capitalism, though there could be a critique of truth, a critique of modernity, like a critique of the Enlightenment, whatever. And anyways, it would go something like this, capitalism's bad. Here's bad things that occur in capitalism. Therefore, you should reject the affirmative for engaging in capitalism. And so then, like, I would say, like, oh, so you're embracing socialism, communism, mercantilism? Like, what's the economic system you're embracing? And they would say, oh, well, we don't embrace. Right? We're just saying what you do is bad. And it's like, well, the problem with that is it's easy. We will never live in a utopia. So even if we could all agree, 200 years from now, there's a country that objectively every right-winger and left-winger could agree, like, wow, that country's way better than anything that exists right now. The system of governance they have is amazing. Someone would still be allowed to come and piss in the Cheerios and go, but look, here's a problem here. So there. See, there's a problem with this.
On this point.
So then you would say, okay, well then what would you do to address that? Oh, I'm not suggesting another society. The communists do this. There's never been true communism. Trust us, if communism was implemented in the way I'm suggesting, it would be a utopia. But every attempt at communism ever has been a failed attempt, so therefore there's never been communism, so you can't criticize those positions and say that they're my positions, because my communism's different. No true Scotsman, right? To which the response is, well, if every attempt to ever get here has led to mass human suffering on a scale that's near unimaginable, what makes you think that you would be able to achieve it?
Exactly. Anyway, I just want to say thanks. These are just the opinions of one dumbass redneck trucker, and who graduated from an alternative high school. So don't take anything I say to heart. Go out there and find it yourself. But no, I last night I felt so bad for you having to deal with those two, and then I couldn't even get in to give you any heads up or anything. So anyway, God bless you, man.
Thank you.
Prayers out there for everybody. The last word on the debate. Craig was not any less prepared last night just because his mother died. That was 100% appeal to emotion. That is exactly how he does all of his, is with AI or Google overviews, and he never has anything substantial.
Well, hey, I thank you so much, Nate. I really do. Always a pleasure. I'm also just some dumb redneck that graduated not an alternative high school, but a very poor high school. So, I happen to be a good talker and a decent debater, but I assure you, I'm stupid in an awful lot of things in real life. So, no fucking detriment there from being a redneck. Yeah, I mean, the idea of his mother passing away, I assume that's true, and I actually feel terrible. I would feel terrible about anyone, regardless of their political position, to have a loved one like a parent die. That's absolutely horrible. But I did not let that. I feel like it's my duty as a debater to treat everyone who enters into that space with a modicum of seriousness, unless otherwise it's been shown through a history of direct interaction with me that they don't deserve that. And so I'm not going to, just because a reputation has been had for someone, like maybe it's like a young 19-year-old person and they're spurging out on other debates, I'm still going to try to approach it and treat them the same way, as opposed to, you would hear this about Charlie Kirk or Steven Crowder all the time. You're only debating young college kids. It's like, well, they vote just the same. They're the people that are going to go out and present. In fact, we're constantly told that they're higher educated than the people I deal with around here. Right. And that's not true. Charlie Kirk was oftentimes trying to debate bigger people, including professors, and he took bigger debates. But nonetheless, the point is, why shouldn't I treat those people with respect and treat them as anyone else? If I go to a fabrication place and talk to a bunch of welders, why shouldn't I? If you enter the debate space, regardless of what your system is right there, what's going on, I'm going to treat you the same way. So I'm not going to be, I'm sorry, your mother died. Well, then I'm going to let you spurg out over me. So I feel terrible his mom died, but I agree. I think it was just an excuse. I Stand America. I'm not sure I read this one. $5 says the UW bulge thing is from the furry community, which is intertwined with the trans community as far as I know. Yeah, Farney, thanks for sending me a link on Discord. I'll have to check that out later. Ron Quay, $5 says, Rob, I'm going to need to dive into these studies with you so we can get some finer details. Craig, you sound like a flat earther. That's exactly how it went. Arch Eachbach, $10 says, for the chair, fetch some WD-40. Listen, you know who yells at me about my squeaky chair all the time? Mr. E. He's always saying that. He's always like, so, pretty funny. All right, next up, another friend of the show. Our good friend, Level 4 Lobster, who's probably also working. How you doing today?
Good, Rob. How are you? Can you hear me fine?
I hear you just fine, man.
I do apologize for the ASMR that I'm going to put you through. Fortunately, my daughter has a cheer celebration today with her team, and UPS decided not to take it easy on me, so I'm running all these stops to make sure I can make it to her event. Two things. One is realistic criticism for you last night, and the other is more of a criticism on what I heard from an earlier caller and what I've kind of heard for a while now. I'm going to start with the criticism of the caller. We all knew a long time ago that when the left started playing this race card and the race card issues, and they started winning with that, it was just a matter of time before the right did the same.
Yep.
And we all saw this coming, and it is here, and it's only going to get worse. And my daughter's black, my wife is black, I'm a white man. I grew up in the days of the Fresh Prince era, you know? Michael Jordan was the biggest star. You had black families on television, that was the hits. You had Michael Jackson as the #1 singer. Like, race relations when I grew up were completely different. And it's sad to see that the right now, the kids growing up in the right, and they're listening to some individuals that are just feeding them some garbage. To be honest, it's just feeding them the utopia that the left is with communism. This utopia that the world is going to be a better place if there's just one race or one race in charge. And I'm disgusted by it, and I'm glad that you push back the way you do. I just really wish these kids would laugh at communism when they talk about the utopia, but they got no problem believing this, and that pisses me off.
Yeah, there's a difference between having pride in your race or wanting to, collectivize and talk about issues of your race, and then actually being like grotesquely racist against other people. Like talking about real data stuff, that's not racist. But there are certainly people that really, and you know what's crazy? I know you're not a fan of it, but I've heard little snippets from like Nick Fuentes. Believe it or not, Nick's like, look, the people that are legitimately like, I hate you because you're Jewish, I hate you because you're black. He's like, I don't like those people. I saw him talking about Gypsy Crusader the other day, and he's like, I don't like this. I don't like how he goes about it. So, but nonetheless, I'm not saying that like, oh, you're like, oh, that's great that Nick said that. I think that you are making a point, and that is absolutely true. That the game has been identity politics so far, calling white people oppressors and identifying race based on other groups, that inevitably the opposite was going to occur. And it's sad that it's come to that, and I understand it. But what I'm trying to do is show that although it's fair to collectivize based on a tribe, mine's not really race, though I do talk about the intention to like sort of go after white people. But you could do it in a way that doesn't mean that you hate people of other colors,
And I agree, and I just wish everyone would just go back to like, it's okay to hate people, like it really is. There's some people in this world I can't stand, but I do it on an individual basis. I do it on the interactions I have with these people. I never do it on a group of people, even when it comes to the left. Like, some people have Democrat friends, and that's totally all right. And we just need to go back to that. And I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but that's enough on that. I really want to get to my criticism of last night. I hope you're in the mood to hear it.
Yeah, it's fine.
You went into that debate prepared. You wrecked them 99% of that debate. You put them in the place. You made them look stupid. I mean, I understand why you are on the right wing right now, because when you go and debate these left wingers, you are the best looking guy in the group.
True.
But your pullout game is weak. You need to focus on your pullout game, because
that's why I have a son.
It's true. The approach that you've taken, I know that you're at your wit's end and don't know what to do. And I think last night, as a suggestion, and not saying that it would have worked, but like, he wants to talk over you because he doesn't want to hear you talk. He doesn't want to look any more embarrassed, and you know that. He knows that, and that's why he's doing it. And that's why they're going to keep doing it, because they see it bothers you, and it's not going to stop. So you are right. Like, what do I do? And the only option that we came up with is, well, we just don't play, and we can't do that. We can't take ourselves out of the fight because their arguments are bad and they're just going to yell over us. Well, last night, Grid, good on Grid. It's very difficult, I would assume, to be in a debate with you. It's hard to get a word in, and I don't hold anything against Grid, because he's a polite individual. He's a good guy, and he understands where the strength in your side is, and it's going to be you delivering it. But in that instance where you're at your wit's end and you have had enough with these people, the only way they want to not interrupt you is if you shut up. But honestly, the other way would be for you to turn to Grid and have an argument with Grid. Fuck these other dudes. Who gives a shit what they do? If you're arguing one of their points, just a bullshit. Be like, Grid, okay, they do have a good point here. What would you say about this? And if you take their position, it could be a way to disarm them and make them shut up so the situation can go on. And then after that, you could have answered the rest of the way. I did appreciate your little wave, like your hand wave when the question came up. You're like, nope, not answering that one. But just a suggestion. I know you've done this a lot longer than I did. I just hate to see 99% of that debate go one way and the 1% end up the way it did.
Lobster, I got to let you go, but I will answer. Thank you so much as always, man.
Have a good day, Rob.
Yep, you too. I totally get what you're saying. Like, there's several things that factored into it. One, it was already an hour and a half when I was told that this was going to be done. Now, at some point, I look and I have 70-something super chats that I have to read. right? On my end, right? We're already an hour and a half past, and it would go another hour and a half, the audience questions. That's how long Grid's stuck along there. And when it's like what was I supposed to do? Talk to Grid and still have this guy spurg out over me? So inevitably, it's going to end one of two ways. Either like the previous time when the moderator did nothing, I just talk over him as he's talking over me and we go 5 minutes like that. Or that the moderator interjects. Or I guess that I just I stop every time the guy starts talking. Why would it matter if I'm talking and answering an audience question versus I'm talking to Grid? What's the difference? The dude's still going to interrupt, right? So I don't know. I think my strategy, I thought that the leaving was, we were already an hour and a half past. The interruptions were coming, which were ridiculous, right? And at this point, like most of the time, it's like, maybe it's different on Modern Day Debate. Almost every platform you're on when you do this is what they'll do. They'll say, hey, here's the debate. Here's your opening statement. Here's how long we plan to go. Afterwards, we'll take questions from the audience if you'd like to stick around. So at that point where it's like, okay, I'm done talking. The moderator's clearly out to lunch and this guy's just going to talk over me. So am I just going to sit here for the next hour and a half and say nothing and just play on my phone? Or am I going to say, thank you very much. It's voluntary time at this point. I did the debate. I'm out. I'm going to go talk to my audience and read the super chats that they generously sent me. That was it. I didn't leave during the debate. I even offered to the moderator. I said, do you want me to stick around and be silent? I will. If that's what you want, I can stick around and be silent. I believe that I have decided that in the future, if a moderator decides to not interject, if someone spurgs out over me, then what I'm going to do is record myself making a long rant about shitty moderators or something on my phone at the top of my lungs and play it into the microphone over and over and over until the moderator kicks me. That's what I've decided I'm going to do. And then when they kick me, I could say, they rage quit. Oh, boy. That's what I'll say. So, Avarice up next. We're only at 26% of the gold day ship. What is going on? We only have 50 minutes left in the show, so keep getting those super chats in. Really appreciate all of you, though. You guys are the best. Let's bring up our friend Avarice. Avarice, what's happening today, man?
How you doing today?
Good, pretty good. Now listen,
sorry,
for some reason I got like 9 callers on, so we got to be quick.
Yeah, sorry I wasn't on for yesterday. I was work got caught up, so I didn't get to come up for yesterday.
It was fine.
But I did watch the whole debate. So like I was even when Andrew came into the Foundry, I was still like watching while talking to Andrew and while talking about the crowd. So I had like 100 things going on yesterday.
I know. Everybody's been, even Andrew's insanely busy right now too.
Yeah, it's been crazy. Unlike this guy, that Lobster, I have no critiques to tell you what to do. You're an amazing debater, and I have no room to tell you how to debate. And I don't suggest ever trying to have a conversation with your partner during a debate.
I've done it in an actual parliamentary debate once. It was kind of funny, but it's a long story. But yeah, I mean, if the fundamental problem of if you get into a situation, which I don't know how this is now the norm, where someone decides I could just spurg out and talk over you, and the moderator decides I'm going to allow this. I don't know what, there's no good solution at that point. You could say, I don't want to participate in this anymore. Last night, I appealed to the moderator 100 times, maybe not that many, probably at least a dozen times. Yeah, moderator, you're going to let this happen?
I didn't. So I'll be honest with you. I was in a lot of conversations when all that was going. And your stream was a problematic for me yesterday. Let me explain why. Your stream, I had to leave up on my top left monitor right next to where I was doing everything because I had to consistently hit the mute button on yours. And it wasn't because of even the spurg, all right? It was because I had a guy talking like this. And robnoerr is perspective society. I can't handle that guy. I was like, oh my God.
It was terrible with his thick accent and then like the tone of. Now listen, I have an annoying voice, so I sympathize. But yeah, man, like when he started giving his opening statement, it took me like 2 minutes. I'm like, what the fuck is this guy saying?
I don't know how you made it through, dude. I don't know how you made it. And so I'm talking to Andrew, right? And I go, I don't know how Rob's doing it. He goes, I debated that guy at DebateCon 4 or whatever. I'm like, I don't know how you debated that guy.
Terrible. He's debating Rachel at DebateCon. The guy's gonna get fucking wrecked. Like I don't know what to say. It was really that bad. Well,
so bad.
I'm so sorry to do it. I got to let you go because we got so many callers.
And we always got a lot of time. Hey,
I'm
have
talking
a good one. Good to see
what's his name? Tony tonight from Ortho Bros. Jim Bums.
Yeah, I'll be here, and if you need me on the back end to come on and fill some time, I'll always be here. Hey, morning crew. Last thing I'll say before I go. Put the donos in. I'm tired of going on for morning, and then afternoon crew, and then getting made fun of and blasted to death about how morning crew didn't keep up. So morning crew, bring it in, bring the donos in, so that I can go talk shit this afternoon.
Look at this guy.
Well, Spears. Look at this. See, those are those left wing spurs we talk about.
There it is. There it is in written form.
Obviously, you can only left wing hate AI, right? Because they're out to get you.
He's doing all caps too. Spurging out all caps. That's
spurging.
Yeah,
that's a spurg.
All right, Everest. Thanks so much, man. Always appreciate it. We'll talk soon. Yes, thank you so much for the kind words. How long, Nate? Thank you so much. $2 says super chats now. Thank you. And then look at this boss. Amicad, $50 says, I'm upset, Rob. You're giving us 40-year-olds a bad name. The small bladder, technical ineptitude, and recalling stories of your youth are impugning your reputation. Don't even get me started on you're balding. You know what? Never mind. It's all right. I'll take that $50. If you saw the extravaganza the other day, we were doing the commercial tier list, and one of the commercials was the hairspray, Ron Popeil doing the paint that you sprayed in your head. I'll take that $50 and buy a can of that. All right, we got to be quick with these calls. I'm so sorry. I'm going to skip the line a little just because someone I didn't get to yesterday. Premonition. How are you doing today? I'm so sorry I didn't get to you yesterday, so I wanted to make sure I got to you today.
No, it's okay. And I will be very quick. I made a couple of notes. All right. I really, and I know you already know this, I really liked your partner. I don't know.
Great. He's a good dude. Yeah.
I liked that guy a lot. I hope you see more of him.
He's got a channel. I'll put his channel in the chat so you could check out his channel and subscribe to it. But he streams almost every day.
Yeah, he's a nice man.
He is.
Yes. You are very powerful. And I know that you are far more experienced than I will ever be in this, but you do not forget that you are very powerful. You have a powerful voice and you are influential. And so when these idiots, like I watched last night, I watched the whole thing also, I almost threw my computer out the window.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah.
Idiots talk down to you, like calling you a flat earther. Hello. I mean, for these lower caste to be insulting an upper caste like yourself, it is a caste system. The debating is a caste system, and you are a higher caste than those guys. So don't forget that. I know you won't.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I really do.
And
I feel weird getting compliments, like even in my family, like it's sort of like, hey, you did a good job with that, but you need to lose some weight, you fat bastard. That's sort of the way my family goes. But I do appreciate the compliment. Thank you so much.
I've always been overweight, and I've always had a high IQ. So
see, we know what we're talking
about. But understand your power. I never did understand mine, and it got me nowhere. And I that's the only thing I was thinking last night. Oh, you're so much more powerful than them.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Anyway, so I won't keep any more of your time other than to say Rachel is going to rip that guy's head off.
You're absolutely right.
I hope I get to see that. Have a wonderful day, dear. I'm going to try to add a little bit of money, but I'm on an extremely tight income.
Please. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Always appreciate your call. Sorry I didn't get to you yesterday, but thanks so much.
No problem, dear.
All right. Bye, thank you. Yep. Bye. Very nice lady. Glad to talk to her every time she calls in. I know what she's saying about a caste system. What I will say is this. At some point, I'm trying not to look at myself. There's obviously talent issues. I don't think those two guys yesterday were on my level, and by my level, I don't mean I mean they literally were so bad. They're just so bad. I don't think it's even a fair representation of that side of the argument. I feel the average left-winger that I could talk to on a college campus would have done a far more competent job than they were doing, and so it becomes frustrating when this is what's sort of put forth in front of you. So, yes, see, not every lady talks to me like you, Courtney. Just saying. All right, we got to be quick. please consider sending in a super chat. We're trying to reach that goal of $357. We got 40 minutes left in the show. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 callers. Plus there's a 7th that was banging in back and forth. So Badger Snake Productions, how you doing today, my friend?
Hey, buddy, can you hear me?
Hear you just fine. Thanks for calling.
Okay. I wasn't sure because I didn't see a thing where I could like unmic or whatever. I wanted to ask you because I hear you and Andrew and a lot of the other debaters that I really enjoy watching complain that the quality of most of these debate channels is absolutely terrible. And me and a friend of mine have actually been wanting to put our own channel together. What are some things that you would advise to be really good moderators? Does it work with 2 moderators? Like, just what would make a good moderator?
So for me, like for my man Speakeasy, it just put a super chat in. I think Speakeasy does a good job. The first thing you have to say, just like you have to do as a debater, is say, what is the point? Why am I doing this? So there's different types of debate shows that you could do. You could do ones that are more easygoing, relaxed. So let's say that I put a debate show together and it's going to be, normally it's going to be someone like EOD debating Spiro. It's probably going to be more hands-off because it's not as a serious endeavor. If you're trying to have serious debates, though, here's some suggestions I would have. 1, you have to run a fine line between understanding that no one gives a shit about the moderator. Now, here's what I mean by this. It's not an insult. The best referees are almost invisible. You never want to be a referee in like a football game or an umpire in a baseball game that the outcome of the game was determined by what you did. Sometimes it's necessary, but oftentimes what you want is you want to be sort of in the background. You're there to make sure that the real stars of the show, the athletes, or in this case, the debater, can have their piece. However, you also have to have a firm hand and understand that it's not just the debaters that you have an interest in, it's also the audience. And the audience and the debaters can't have an educational or entertaining time if multiple people are talking at the same time. It just can't happen. The audience has no fucking clue what's going on. The debaters can't hear each other. So of course, you want to have as light as hand as possible and understand that human communication in general, let alone offer an online space where there could be micro delays, there's visual cues that aren't picked up on that you would see in person. There's going to be a little bit of over talking. So that no one has a problem with that. Like, for example, you just went, No one's like, oh, that's an interruption. What it would be is if you were like, wait, you fucking idiot. Wait, no, you're misrepresenting. No, not gonna let me finish. Fuck you, blah, blah, blah. At that point, the moderator has to step in and be like, please, when finish this point, then you'll be directly next, right? In general, it's not about equaling time, but you want to have a rough equal amount of, sort of unfettered access for people to get their points out on both sides. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you can't be intimidated by the size or the ideology of any of the people participating. So you don't look at it and you say, well, Rob's got a bigger channel than EOD, so I'm going to constantly be like, fuck you, EOD, I'm taking Rob's side. You can't do that, right? Like, you have to be firm and say, like, no, I am here. It doesn't matter if I'm, the referee at a basketball game and Michael Jordan's there and LeBron James is there. I got to call it down the middle. It doesn't matter that I'm objectively like, my goodness, these are the greatest. So the talent level should be irrelevant, right? And so those are some of the easy sort of pieces of advice I have. And yet there's other things, like you can't leave one person talk for like 20 minutes and the other person talk for 1. You don't want to do that. It's okay to be like, look, it's okay if you're doing more than 2 people being like, hey, let's try to get someone in here that maybe hasn't said much. Go ahead. Like, did you have something to add to this? And if they're like, no, it's like, So, it's an ebb and flow. It's a feeling. Like, for me as a moderator, something that I'm cognizant of in a 2-on-2 debate is I want to leave when 2 people are going at it, them hash it out. But once it feels like there's some point, and no one's ever happy, but there's some point where I can put a button in it and say, okay, now let's get these other 2 people involved, right? Like, no, I think you guys are having a good discussion, but as you can see, everyone, like, there's not going to be an ending to this. It could go all night in this point. So let's get some other opinions. No one's ever happy, but we got to move on. That's the other thing. You want to be, and the other thing I'll say that I think was the big problem last night is you have to be paying attention to the debate. Like, it can't just be like, oh, okay, I'm just going to fucking sit here and eat some soup. And, this is on in the background. And then I'll wait until I hear someone perk up and go, gentlemen, please. Right? Like, no, you should be an active listener in the debate. And actually, as a moderator, when I moderate, like, I'm a fucking weirdo. So when I'm moderating, I'm like, well, what would I say to this? Oh shit, that's a good argument. And like, I'm remembering that because it's like, oh, I'm learning shit. And so then the next time I debate, I'll remember I heard this debate and I learned this fact, or I saw someone argue this and I didn't agree with that. So here's what I would say to that. That's how I'm doing it when I moderate a debate. Maybe that comes from the fact that I was a debate judge, not a moderator in college. And in there, you literally are deciding who won the debate. So you have to actively be listening. If you're just putzing around, you're not going to be able to make a fair decision. So those are some advice I have. And that's not to even get in. I could talk to you all day about this, but you know,
I know you could.
the last thing I'll say about this is you have to make sure a lot of the debate is actually picking the right people to be in the debate. Right? So you want to match skill sets. You want to match people that have similar approach to debate. If you get someone that's like let's say that you're moderating a debate, right? And you're like, you find this guy who's this very sober-minded, like medical doctor, and he's going to talk about like proper foods to eat to try to avoid cancer. And you're going to have someone against him. You don't want some fucking Reddit spurg, right? Because that doctor's going to be like, what is this? You know, like I don't understand. I was here to have like a serious conversation, and now this dude like Craig's sitting here like, yeah, fucking flat earther, fuck you, blah blah blah. Like that doctor's gonna be like, hey man, I didn't sign up for all this. Like I don't understand what the point is. So you want to try to match people, and always, this is the last advice I'll give. Always, both in the debate and in particular outside the debate, treat everyone as respectful as possible, even if you despise them.
Yes.
So you might be like, I don't fucking like Rob Noerr's politics. I think he's a shitty person. When you're dealing with me, hey, thanks so much for agreeing to do the debate. Now, here's going to be the time. I'll send you the link. Here's the format. Any questions? Let me know if there's anything I can do for you. You know, if you do that and you start to build up a reputation from people on all sides, hey, when I see Badger Snake like do his own shit, I don't agree with his politics, but man, he's been nothing but respectful as a moderator and behind the scenes to me. You're going to grow your base of people that are willing to not just come on your show, but then grow your base of people that are willing to watch your show. So it should be like a good referee. You shouldn't have any clue which team that ref liked growing up. It should be completely irrelevant. As a moderator, it should be irrelevant where you fall on the political side, or if it's not a political debate, a religious debate. It should be irrelevant where you fall on the religious side. That's the best advice I could give. So. But
thank you so much, man.
Hey, no problem.
I appreciate it. And I really enjoyed your take earlier on the woman who called into that show. As far as like sometimes people live somewhere their whole life, and then all the sociological factors of where they are completely changes, and we have to have empathy for people who get trapped and stuff like that. I was saying over and over, like, imagine being so scared of your own country and the people that are coming into it that you're willing to send your child away to another country.
It's tragic. And that woman probably could trace her ancestry back like 5 generations, if not further. And she's like, nope, I'm giving up. I'm sending my kid. Yeah. Well, hey, I appreciate it. I'd love to spend more time, but I got a lot of calls. Yeah. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. All right. We got a half hour left. Keep getting those super chats in. We got Speakeasy. Speaking of Speakeasy, $20 says, don't forget a costume for VK this Friday, sir. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do VK this Friday because I'm taking my son trick-or-treating in the big city. So I'll be on the road. Premonition, thanks so much for calling in and for the $5. Says, support how I can. Love to the wife, son, and dog. Thank you. It means a lot. Thank you. And Ty B, $20 says, Rob, you're a saint for debating Craig and Max. Both are extremely insufferable. That's a polite way of putting it. I agree they were insufferable. Keep getting those super chats in. I'm going to bring EOD up just because he said it's only going to be like 30 seconds. So, bam! We got him. Yeah. His camera's all blurry. And what's up, man?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Let me fix that really quick. Okay, so how you doing, Rob? I hope everything's going good for you.
Best he's ever looked.
Okay, so... All right, there we go. I fixed it. So yesterday with the MDD thing, I posted on the MDD video like right before you, and I feel like maybe that made you feel like you had to post something. Sorry about that.
No.
So I ended up taking
not
that
at all.
out.
That was not it at all.
No.
I actually felt really bad. I knew. Look, Are We Not Men's like $100 to kick this guy. So nope, not at all.
We're gonna just a second.
Real quick.
Okay, so that's my bad.
Real quick. Powder Dusty in the studio. See you, Powder Dusty. Okay, go on.
All right. The only thing I wanted to say was I do stand by what I said, though. It would be, I'd be remiss for James to do anything to oust Ryan and stop him from doing any more debates. He's been a huge part of that channel for a long time. It's one bad performance. I agree it was a terrible performance. He could have done a lot better. He shouldn't have been so distracted. But part of that was James calling him, right? So it's like, it's a worst possible outcome, and I would be sorry to see anything bad happen to Ryan over there.
Yeah, I like again, and I do to Steelman. This is weird to say, but to defend Ryan, he was having tech issues, clearly, right? And sometimes that dishevels you. And I think at least at one point he was on the phone with James, and it probably was something like, "When do you want me to read the super chats?" And right, because it's not his channel, he's there at the behest of someone else's channel, so it's almost like your boss is calling you on the phone. So imagine that, I'm not trying to belittle this, but imagine you work at a restaurant, right? And you're a waiter and you're serving food to someone. And meanwhile, you got your boss and your headset, blah, 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 blah,
the
blah.
owner
blah.
of the restaurant, yeah.
And then you fuck up someone's order. That person has the right to be like, hey, my order's fucked up here, right? They don't give a shit why. It's just the order's fucked up. But outside the scope of that, you understand, your boss was chatting in your ear. I get it. I don't think that means you should be fired because you fucked up the order. That's how I'm looking at it. So probably what was happening was he was distracted by shit going on in the background. I have no hard feelings. The fact that there were so many things that were factored into that, the fact that we were already an hour and a half past sort of when the debate was supposed to end. And again, I remind you, I told everyone last week I was supposed to have a Christian nationalist debate afterwards at 11 p.m. Where would we have been if I had that debate? I would have had to leave during the debate because I was told 6-minute intro for all 4 people, 60 minutes open debate, 1 minute closing statement, and then audience questions if available. Supposed to be wrapped up in 2 hours, half hour of audience questions. That was it. That was the format I was told.
It just kept dragging on and on and on. I don't know. It seemed like they were in on it with each other a little bit. I don't know what the issue was. But hey, I gotta go, EOD. Thanks so much, man. I appreciate it, man. Always appreciate it. We'll talk soon. All right. Sparrow, $5 says, Chat Speakeasy will be hosting a future proper heated entertaining debate between myself and EOD on which Zelda game is the best. There you go. You get an idea of how to moderate well. Even when you have unserious lol cows like Sparrow and EOD on. Bandit, $2 says, $100. Here's $2 to kick EOD. All right, Cody Samurai. What's happening, Cody? How you doing today?
Hey, Rob, doing good. How are you? Can you hear me all right?
Yes, I hear you fine. What's on your mind?
Awesome. Yeah. So first off, I wanted to start with there was a real nice little lady on here a few minutes ago, and she was way too fucking nice to you. So I just want to say you are fat, and but you're also an incredible debater. So want to balance it out a little bit.
You're doing good until the latter part. I definitely it is so weird. It's weird for me. I've always been in a position where it's weird to have people compliment you too much. I mean, I understand it's heartfelt, and I really do appreciate it. But you know how guys are.
There was a guy before that called you a fat piece of shit. You're fat, but you're not a piece of shit. That's what I can say. I'll be in the middle.
My dad was like that growing up. Now, me and my dad had the relationship where he'd know I did something that was really good, and he'd be like, "Hey, man, you did a great job, but when are you gonna clean the fucking yard up? Remember when you were supposed to do that?" That's the type of relationship I had with my dad. So
yeah, that's a good thing. Always room for improvement.
Yeah, right. So yeah, but she's very nice. She's a great person.
I wanted to ask you about something specific, and then ask you. Well, first off, did you happen? It's definitely relevant to the debate. Michael Knowles was in a congressional hearing yesterday, actually, and that's definitely directly related to the statistics and how basically the larger organizations and even organizations within the U.S. government are skewing the data, and also in instances like you were talking about of direct arrest.
Yes, that absolutely. Michael Knowles did a great job, and very similar to what I was talking about. Steven Crowder, when he came back and was doing his Change My Mind, he was talking about this very thing, right? About the left-wing violence, and it's frustrating because it's one of these things where it's frustrating to even have to engage in the debate because everybody can see it with their own eyes, right? And it's similar. It's one of these things. It's the old meme where it's like, source, please. It's like, hey, we shouldn't punch toddlers in the face. Source? Where's your source? Where's the data on that? Because here at the University of Tennessee did a study, and it said that punching toddlers in the face is actually a good thing, and it results in 23% less recidivism and not putting your toys away. And you're just like, huh? What? Like, unless you have a counter study that suggests elsewise, it's frustrating.
And did you see the portion with Booker?
Yes, where he just left.
Oh man, yeah, he made that big speech about accountability and being able to go back and correct yourself, and then walks out right as he's getting called out. It's just hilarious.
Hilarious. Yeah, Knowles did a great job. People should check that out. You can find it on X, by the way. Just type in Michael Knowles, and you'll see a bunch of clips from him yesterday in front of Congress. Yep.
Yeah, it was incredible. And yeah, just to be quick, I don't want to take up too much time because I know you're limited, but I wanted to, I just on the debate directly yesterday, I think that, to even begin to criticize your debating tactics or skills would be remiss for me, who has never debated fuck all. But I want to say, I think you pivot between being polite and just saying, fuck this. I think a big thing that would help is to pick a lane.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. I think last night I really was trying to pick that lane of just being like trying to be polite the whole time, and then it got to the point of absurdity, it's just like, and so I guess at that point, I mean, I get if I'm analyzing and it's like while the moderator's on the phone and the dude's just talking over me, I guess I do what I do towards the end of the debate and just say, okay, I'm not going to be able to get a word in edgewise, so.
Yeah.
And then it's like,
that's it. I don't have any debating suggestions.
Well, no, that's fair. Like I don't have any fucking, basketball knowledge, but I could look and say, hey, the problem is the way this guy's throwing free throws, he should try this. Doesn't mean I'm right, but I have every right to make that claim. So it doesn't matter. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's I think it's true. And it's something I've struggled with the entire time that I've had an online presence, because I'm basically authentic. This is who I am, but you also could modulate, right? Like, and for people that are like, well, this is disingenuous, think about it this way. You might be the type of guy that's like having beers with your friends. You're like, fuck this asshole, blah, blah, blah. But then all of a sudden when you're with your grandma, you ain't talking like that, right? You're still the same person, but you're like, hi, grandma. Like, you're not swearing. You change sort of your rhetoric. Sort of like that. Like policy debate in college, there's no, like, you really can't talk over people because of the way that it's set up, basically. But it's more professional, right? But when I'm talking to my friends, this is like the way I'm talking to you right now. This is more like it. And if they say something stupid, I'll be like, fuck you, you idiot. What are you talking about, right? So how do you approach an online debate? And my audience has always been up in the air with this too. Some of my audience will be like, that's what we like the most, when you just like go in aggressively at these people like, no, you're fucking wrong. This is why. And then some people are like, well, we prefer when you take a more even keel tone. So I've really been trying to approach it with more of an even keel tone. But then what happens is you quickly find out that you're in a shit show. And then it's like, well, what do you do now that you're in the shit show? And I thought I did a really good job of at least an hour and 20 minutes last night until the feed went out and then we came back. And then it was just this dude talking over me, because what happens is, I mean, sure, I think at that point the debate was already, they had shown who they were, and we were not progressing much. So I suppose it wouldn't have hurt me to just be like, I guess I won't get to talk the rest of the debate. I guess because now it's evident that my opponent's strategy could be, I'm just going to filibuster and scream over you. And the mod's going to sit there and be like, I'm on the phone, I'm not paying attention. So I suppose I could just be like, okay, it's not for me. But you can see what happens. Half of my audience or half the people, when I do that at the end, they're like, that's bad form. What do you mean? You can't do that. You can't just say, what would like a serious, I'm telling you right now, this is what a serious person would do. That's like a serious like debater in college. They'd be like, yeah, I'm not going to be here. Thanks so much. That's what they did. Just be like, no,
and that's understandable. I guess coming from someone that's just an audience viewpoint, our tendency is just to prefer to see them get smacked around and smacked into the ground, from an audience viewpoint. But that's not always the right option.
If I do that and that's fine, and that's my preference as well. But then how do I do that while remaining even kill if someone's going to spurg out and the moderator is just going to allow it to go? So how do I then, because when you're like, well, you change tactics, it's like, well, yeah, what was I supposed to do at that point? Because the only thing I could do, this is how this would work. So what I was trying to say is, so anyways, what I was trying to say, so
well, one thing Andrew does,
and that
he sort of takes on that. Sort of takes on an internal moderator position, is what Andrew does, in a really interesting way. And this isn't to say like, oh, be more like Andrew, but it's just an observation. He has a good way of being the moderator to say, listen, I'll listen to your one point. I'll listen to your point. I'll listen to your point. Just let me talk for 30 more seconds. Shut your fucking mouth, or whatever he needs to say.
Okay, but that's
and
not
then
being
he has
that's
yeah.
If then you can't start off the debate trying to be polite.
Yeah,
that's how
exactly.
you're going to do it. Then you're shifting tactics anyways, right?
Yeah,
and
true.
and again, it doesn't work. Part of it is Andrew has now put himself in a position where he has such a bigger audience that I think even the lefties know, like, hey, it's a good thing that I get to debate this guy. So if I walk over this line and this guy's gonna be like, you're a fucking joke, I'm not talking to you anymore, that's bad for me. They don't have that with me. Right. And so it's like, well, I'm just going to keep pushing this. I mean, do you really think it would have made a difference if I told that guy, hey, I'm going to let you spurg out in this point and then for 30 seconds and then I'm going to make my. You think he would have said, oh, very fair. Yes. Sounds wonderful. Of course not. Of course. Once he saw, it was evident from the get go he was going to interrupt. Once he saw, oh, the moderator's not paying attention. I can do whatever the fuck I want now. That's how the game is going to be.
Right.
That's it. So I don't know. I mean, sure, I guess I could sit here and try my best to be like, wait, what is the exact strategy that I could do in this point? I don't know what the idea of ruminating about it really is. I do take into account your point though. Like if you're going to sit there and you're going to try to be like sort of analytical and be polite, then to later be like, okay, then I'm just going to shout over you like you're shouting over me, seems like it's possibly a mistake. I just don't know what the correct answer is. I mean, if the answer is you start spurging out like that, I leave. That's what happened the other day. People freak the fuck out. If I start spurging out after them, then people are like, well, that's beneath you. You were calm and now you're acting like something different, so you shouldn't do that. If I say, moderator, can you do something about this? It's, you're appealing to the moderator. Why are you doing this? If I talk about this afterwards, then there's a large piece of people that go, you're letting it get under your skin. Why are you letting it get under your skin? There's literally no right answer. There's none. There is. I mean, the right answer is to just be like, okay, I'm not debating. That's it. I'm just going to be done debating. And then everyone's like, well, that's a mistake.
It wasn't your fault.
Do that. You know,
Ryan, and you gave Ryan way too much grace earlier. I don't say like, oh, fuck him, but ultimately he's been doing this way too long for that shit to even be something that happens on the channel. I don't think that that's acceptable at all. Even if you have to take a phone call, you need to be half in at least. And I feel like he sort of just from the beginning, because old Greg over there, he was spurging out so bad and threatening to quit. It felt like sort of like when Andrew was debating that crazy Crash Out Kylie on whatever, where Brian was trying to placate a little bit, where Brian is not an experienced moderator. And so Ryan should have picked up the ball a lot better on that. And so I don't put you in blame for that.
Well, I don't know this Craig guy. Early in the debate where he was like, Craig, you always do this, right? And he seemed to be like, hey, man, settle down. You know, but then later, because he got distracted or whatever, like whatever his reason, it doesn't matter, right? It was like Ryan was like, "Oh, it's like the bad kid in school when the teacher's like, hey, be quiet, we're trying to learn here," you know, and then the teacher walks out in the hall, and the kid's like, "Ah!" That's what it was like, and it's like, "Oh, now
he
the
came
teacher's
out
not paying
strong,
attention."
but he didn't actually follow up with any consequence to the interruptions or any sort of follow up that was meaningful that made Greg stop, you know. So,
well,
hey, I don't want to take up too much time. Yep.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, man. We'll talk soon. Shodan Shootman says, LOL, one viewer. 390 on all platforms total. But how many viewers are watching you, Shodan Shootman? Just curious. Just curious. Oh no, I've been seen. Yes, I'm sure that's a reaction you have much in your life when people notice you. So, all right, keep getting those super chats in, folks. Next up, we got Jared. What's up, Jared? How you doing?
Hey, what's up, Rob?
Not much.
I know you've been talking about it a lot, but I really did enjoy your debate. And those two guys you're debating are really annoying me. Like, I think foreigners just have. It makes me angry when foreigners have such strong opinions about stuff here in America, especially when they're communists. Like, that pisses me off. And those guys are a bunch of idiots too.
I have opinions on the UK, so I don't mind that they have opinions. But the problem is, for example, that Max guy, if I take him at face value, like he's unaware that there were riots going on while like CNN's reporting and saying it's mostly peaceful. I mean, how are you going to even pontificate about like these sorts of things if you don't know the bare minimum that occurred? And maybe that's true. Maybe in whatever country he's from, they didn't cover it as much. Okay, then then it's hard for me to have a serious conversation with you when literally everyone in America, right or left, would yeah, we know exactly what you're talking about. Of course, one of the biggest stories in the country in 2020 of like the media while these fires are raging, being like, "Oh, what are you talking about? It's mostly peaceful."
Mhm.
So, yeah, in this case, being a foreigner, maybe I think it's probably just bad faith. But if it's not, and they didn't know, like sort of what we were all seeing, then they're ill-equipped to have that conversation. Then.
Well, especially when he was citing this data that you were so easily like challenging, and his only answer was just, "Well, but my data," you know.
It's and this is what's surprising from someone who debates flat Earth, because I don't know. I've never seen Craig debate flat Earth, but my assumption would be they're very like data minded, scientific minded, right? And so part of that is that you're going to be like, well, listen, we know how to interrogate, sort of, and question when you're providing data to me. So, for example, if a flat earther is like, well, we did this study that blah 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 blah, a non-flat earther is going to be like, wait a minute, let's see the details of this study, right? Same thing here. You would think then that would carry over. It's like, okay, you're citing this study. Right. So let's, and again, if you go back, he denied this. That was the other thing that was frustrating. Like he would say something and then say, no, I didn't say that. Or I would say something, he'd go, no, that's not what was said. You go back and watch. The very first question in open debate was, I was just curious, your studies, CISA, ADL, whatever, how many violent left-wing events did they say there was in 2020? And he's like, that's not the first question you had. Yes, it is. And he never answered it because truth is, they're not very good about publishing the details of their data. They just say like, oh, this is it. And then you're supposed to accept it. And when they do publish the details and you look into it, all of a sudden you find shit out like, well, they're saying that Kyle Rittenhouse was right-wing violence. But so it is frustrating, and you would think he would know better. But I was prepared by opening statement. Yeah. I know what they're going to do. They're going to say, we are going to cite these studies, and we've gone through these studies, and they're bullshit. That's exactly what he did.
It's almost like you predicted it.
Yeah.
I knew he was being such bad faith too, and then he just kept going around saying you're a flat earther. It's just like at that moment when he started going around calling you a flat earther, it's at that moment I like knew like his argument was in the toilet and Rob was about to flush him. That's what I knew.
I didn't even then I was trying to be polite. I was very much trying to, because I could have been like, did you call me a flat earther? Like the only person here that seems objectively irrational is you. And it was everything. Like they would make a claim. Well, they're black bagging Americans. Can you show me? No. Okay. Well, this happened. Can you show me? No. Can you show me the data? What it's saying? No, I'm not going to get into specifics. I just say, here's the data. And I was trying to prove a point at one point where I was like, oh, well, the data shows that 1 million 3-year-olds were killed by Democrats last year. Oh, really? Really? Well, we'll prove it. Yeah, I don't have to, man. That's what you're doing. That's how silly you sound.
Sorry, I had to go inside because I had the train going on out there.
It's all right.
No, that was the one of the reasons I was getting so mad, because these foreigner guys, and there's the guy had like a serious smugness about him too, and he was I just hate when these foreigners just like act like they know more about what's going on here than we do, But that's what the left they love though. They like, I don't know if it was from your show I heard this, but like that's the majority of the people that are voting for Zamdani, the guy in New York, is all
DJ Cradle. That's what I call him.
Is bunch of like foreign-born voters. Was it? I think it was from your show. I heard that from.
Yep, that's absolutely true.
And it's like they're trying to like replace us. Like the replacement theory thing is real. They're trying to replace Americans, and then you see it like too with like the halftime show for the Super Bowl, and like. I mean, that guy, all of his music is in Spanish. Like, who does that appeal to? I don't understand. I think that's just they're trying to appeal to foreigners. So on top of like that guy's music being dog shit, like you can't even understand it either.
I think that is like, it's the point to demoralize you. I think that is largely the point. But hey, I appreciate the kind words. I got to get running. I got another caller to get to. But hey, man, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I'm glad you enjoyed the debate as it went. Thanks, Jared.
Yeah.
All right. Keep getting the super chats in, folks. We can at least get to 99%. That's reasonable, right? 99% of the goal. We could do that. That seems entirely reasonable. Max Reddick, $5 says, I think those guys you debated yesterday might be retarded. The only thing that could have made it worse is Peter Pettigrew Wick. Wick can at least formulate thoughts, even if he's wrong. Mr. Guy, what's happening, man? Can't hear you. Your mic might not be set up properly. Or perhaps I called you in and you weren't ready to go. All right, try to get your mic sorted out. We're going to bring up the other person. Oh, okay, he left. Lysol operator, what's happening, my friend? How you doing today?
Hey, Rob. Appreciate you having my call again. Man, I watched that debate, and I've never seen. I used to do a little bit of jiu-jitsu, and it was like watching a black belt take on a couple of white belts in that debate. It was absolutely unreal how they were trying to appeal to that study over and over again. And you even in good faith, like, all right, well, if we're going to use that as this crux of this argument, let's go through the specifics. And they just continued to flee from it. But then they would refer to it again. And
it's
yeah. And the other thing too, it was just so intellectually dishonest for them to turn around. Like, I've done statistics before at a reasonable level. Oh, well, you need to counter this with other data. It's like, no, I can critique the methodology and the criteria in which the data was gathered. Because when you started going through specifics and they couldn't even name it, it was like, did you literally just read the abstract and say, good enough, let's have a debate?
That is what they did. I guarantee that's what they did. Or more to the fact, what they did was read a CNN article that cited it. And so when they're discussing what the data says, they're just reading some journalism rag that was like, oh, here's what the data says. And an AI search of what the data says. And that's it. They read a summary of it. They read the abstract. Bam, done. And when I'm like, can you talk? They had no fucking clue, right? You could tell when I asked, like, well, how much it took. It wasn't as if, did you see how he was Google searching when I said, how many events did they say 2020? He didn't have the actual study in front of him. He was searching it as we spoke. He just had what he had written out, that the abstract, what the summary said. So now he's trying to search for, oh, okay, what'd Sissa say? Now, good luck, because I've searched, and it is difficult to find, but I'm not the one using that data set. And I'm not going to say I've never, particularly in the heat of a debate, cited a study or something that I wasn't eminently familiar with. But if the other side says, look, here's a serious critique of the methodology, I'm not going to just be like, nope, the abstract says you're wrong. Like, you're like, okay, now that we're critiquing the methodology, I got to take your critique seriously. Okay, let's look at the study. We'll try our best to sort this out. And this isn't a small thing. It's not like, in a flippant comment in the middle of a debate where it's like, actually, I was reading a study that says, 56% of domestic violence is actually started by women. Really? What study was that? It's like, probably not that germane to the topic at hand, whatever we're talking about, but fine, I'll look it up. We'll see what we can do. This was literally his entire argument. It was the entire opening statement. This is his entire strategy hinges upon this. And it's like, okay, but you don't know anything about this data. And then ironically, you're absolutely right. You don't need to provide a counter set of data to critique the methodology, but they already did provide the counter data because he himself provided the data that they frame it this way. 93% of Black Lives Matter were peaceful. Right, which means 7% weren't, which is 220 locations of violence. So what's your data say? How many violent left-wing instances does it have? Because you just provided a data set that said there's over 200 from the left in 2020 alone. So what's the data set that you're using? What's it say? Right. And then he gave this, I have no idea. Like, it was like, he was like, Rob directly provided a data set and I needed to say something. So I'll say words? And it's I said, so he said something equivalent. Well, Rob, the problem is what you're doing is you're using this set to take small examples and try to make them into big examples and then try to then make those into examples that fit into this. So, I mean, those are words, but I don't think it addresses anything that it's like, what are you talking about? You've provided two data sets that contradict each other. Explain.
Correct.
That's it. And he can't do it,
Yeah. And when my dad was watching it with me, he was having a good chuckle at it. He said, look, this is an analogy like those white belts floundering. They're just grabbing on whatever they can for the gi and hoping on. And the other thing that really blew my mind was how disingenuous they got when they were clearly frustrated, because you started addressing and again, going further and further in your critique, and they could see their arguments falling apart. That other gentleman on Craig's side, Max, oh my, I'm not going to say anything disparaging to him, but he lives in a totally different reality and addressed absolutely nothing that pertained to the prompt, which was just eye-opening for me, especially as a new consumer of debates. But when you brought up the May riots and Craig tried to disingenuously say, well, the Secret Service made this statement. Well, what the Secret Service was actually stating is no one breached the grounds. They didn't speak to the intent of the crowd.
Correct.
And then Craig tried to ascribe intent to him by saying, oh, well, they didn't try. Okay, so they went to protest, but decided to bring Molotovs and throw them in that general direction of a building they wanted nothing to do. That's truly what your take is.
It was surreal. It really was. Like the idea, let me see. I'll bring this up. That someone timestamped this, and I actually was like, because someone sent it to me. He actually does say, and then later when I call it out, claims he doesn't say.
Yeah. He misread or understood, interpreted what the Secret Service said. Then he repeats the actual quote, and you and oh my goodness, I can't believe Grid,
yeah,
started being like, well, that's a totally different description of what you initially said, and then he tried to flummox for a little bit and try to say, no, I didn't. And the other thing was when it got off into not necessarily the weeds, but just it's eye-opening for me to see that they really do ascribe to a different reality. Like the whole, they didn't shoot at Donald Trump, even though they hit a fireman and injured other people behind him because of the cartilage damage to Trump's ear. It's eye-opening to me because I honestly thought, because I'm ignorant, I would go into arguments with my friends that are left-leaning with good faith of, look, they're just misunderstanding this or they don't have the full context. But when you dig into it, you're like, no, you really do believe this.
Yep, it's insane. Well, hey, I got to let you go.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Really a pleasure. Thank you. And hopefully we'll talk soon.
Yes, sir.
Take it easy. Mr. Guy, I promise if you call in tomorrow, you'll be the first caller, but I do have a hard out at 2:30, so I got to read these super chats, then I want to play this clip real quick, and I got to yell at people, send in more super chats. Naughty Germ, $5 says EOD won the roll-off. Good work, EOD. Thanks so much, Naughty Germ. Jeff Rademacher, good to hear from you again. $5 says Greg was annoying. Max was an albino ferret. And Rod Ojanet, they rolled a 20 on a D20. Oh, snap. Let's, here's the part that we're talking about here real quick. So what he's going to claim is the May 30th, where they attacked the White House, lefties attacked the White House, that the Secret Service said that they weren't trying to get into the White House, despite the fact that's clearly what they were doing. And I say that's what you originally said, that the Secret Service said that. Listen what happens. No one tried to breach the White House. Now what you're reading is that they didn't make a statement that someone did attempt to breach the White House. Those are two different things.
That's not what I've said. I've said every single time the Secret Service statement, May 31st, 2020, described physical confrontations of projectiles at officers, but made no claim that anyone tried to breach the White House perimeter.
Okay, so he's saying there, they didn't make a claim. Right. So not saying something. So for example, them not saying, oh, and by the way, they were trying to breach the White House. They're, as the caller said there, Lysol said, the Secret Service in that instance aren't speaking to intent. They're just giving the facts on the ground. But his original statement was that the Secret Service affirmatively said that they weren't trying to breach the White House. That's completely different. He says, I never said that. Listen, this is minutes earlier. Then we don't accept it. It's absolute bullshit. Everyone can see what they were doing.
So a statement from the Secret Service says there was physical confrontations of projectiles at officers, but there was no attempt for anyone to breach the White House perimeter. That is from the Secret Service.
No. See what he said? He said the Secret Service said there was no attempt to breach the White House. No, they didn't. They did not say that. The Secret Service did not say they were intending to get into the White House. But they didn't affirmatively say no one intended to get into the White House. Do you see the issue? And why this matters is it's frustrating when I call out, this is what you said, and that's wrong. And he's like, no, I didn't. I never said that. Yes, you did. You could say, I misspoke. That's fair. But the idea that you're going to be like, no. Anyways, that was it. This is people surrounding Dusty. They are banned. Where's the next one? Let's see. Anyways, Max Reddick, thanks so much. $5 says, please don't let that chocolate egg Max ruin the name of Max because it's delusional take on politics. It's you and Grit have amazing patience. Thanks so much. Our Max is the best Max. Now, we have a couple seconds for people to send in big piles of money. Big piles of money. It's probably not a fan. It's probably just alts of his. Send in big piles of money in order to reach our goal. It's possible. We're going to be raiding over to Jay Dyer. So I hope you enjoyed that. I've only interacted with Jay once, but it was an enjoyable experience. He seems like a very smart dude. So, yeah. A lot of fun doing the show today. I'll be back at 5 p.m. over on the Crucible's Rumble channel doing the extravaganza with the great Jake Rattlesnake and the less great Mr. E. Today, I like Mr. E. I'm just fucking with him. But it should be a good show. Then tonight, 10 p.m., I will be talking to Tony from the Ortho Bros, who does a show with Jim Bob. That's going to be tonight at 10 p.m. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So it's Hello Listener is the person that I'll be talking to tonight. So it should be a great show. That'll be at 10 o'clock tonight. Captain Planet, thanks for the $10. 67%. Come on. We can at least get to 69%, right? Someone could do that. All right. Thanks so much, everyone. Thanks to everyone that called in. Thanks to everyone who donated. Thank you so much to everyone who was involved in the chat. Really appreciate you all. Thank you so much to my moderators. Thanks to my editor, Black Elk, and everyone else. You guys are the best. Appreciate all the support, well wishes, criticisms, and everything else. Get those super chats in as we go to the end of the show. Appreciate it. Remember, always remember the memory of Charlie Kirk. Well, real quick. Yeah, you're killing me, EOD. EOD's live, so we'll raid him. Okay, let's see. It doesn't show up as you live, so we're going to raid Jay. I don't have time. I got to go. So, all right, thanks so much, everyone. Remember the memory of Charlie Kirk. You guys have a good one. As always, prayers to Charlie Kirk and his family. Thank you guys so much. You guys are the best. We'll see you at 5 o'clock over in the Crucible's Rumble stream for the
Only in America is it possible to say, you know what, I don't like the way the country is going, and to do something about it. Take that risk. Take that leap of faith. Stay involved. Trust God and act obediently. Romans 12:2 verse. That God will use all things for good for those who love him. It's bigger than you. I want you to remember that. It is bigger than you. It's bigger than me. You are here to make somebody else's life better, the pursuit of liberty and freedom. You know what gives me strength? The hundreds of thousands of you that say, Charlie, keep going.
1 Corinthians 5 and 15. So that's all pretty amazing evidence, not just intra-biblical evidence, but extra-biblical evidence that Jesus Christ was a real person. He lived a perfect life. He was crucified, died, and rose on the third day, and he is Lord and God of all.